I believe the show has just gone live. Hello, everybody. My name is Chris, and you are watching the weekly Spinner Rack. Bear with me. I went live, and I am still setting up a few things, but I'll explain. What are we doing here? Well, the weekly Spinner Rack is a weekly show about comics where I'm going to talk to you about the latest comic book news. We're going to do some reviews of some of the stuff that came out this week. Oh my gosh, what a big week. Dude, the latest Brubaker Phillips book, that's always a big deal in my book. We had some fun stuff like Ultraman, Avengers, the latest book in the relaunch of X-Men, the end of She-Hulk, a new Transformers, all sorts of really cool stuff to talk about. I've banged out a little sketch here of Rogue. It's pretty light. It's pretty faint. Just some light pencils. So if there's time, I plan to do some inks as well. And so there's a lot of comic book news to talk about this week. There's a lot of comic books to talk about this week. Hopefully I can get some art in. And then I'm going to give a shout out to some of the lovely folks here in the chat room. Always happy to have you guys add to the show. Let me see here real quick. I'm just going to do one thing to add. There. Okay, good. We're all set up. Let me zip back a little. And hey, we're starting off with a super chat. Oh my God. That means a lot to me. Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that, Steve. Death and Taxes, Steve, $2 super chat, inevitable. There we go. Yes. Look at this. Just gonna quickly try to highlight a bunch of names of people that are with me. Lovely to see a few new names mixed in there. Always exciting to see people that I recognize. My buffness did wear off. If you watched the latest Comic Tropes episode, I do a show called Comic Tropes, and I was pretty buff in that episode, right? Muscle suit? What? No, why would I do that? That would be ridiculous. That would imply that I was trying to be funny or something like that. Anyway, there. Tried to highlight as many as I could. Thank you, folks. This is a new camera, so it's not going to do that weird autofocus thing that I had problems with. It's at a slightly different angle than I'm used to. I might be able to adjust that better in future weeks, but that's been plenty of preamble. Thank you if you watched the latest episode of Comic Tropes, and if not, it's there for your enjoyment. And without any further ado, I'm about to add some of the news. I created a helpful little document today. There we go. Did I duplicate it right? I'm so surprised. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of strange sort of gossipy news that we're going to get into this time. So let's do it. We're going to start with a lawsuit right off the bat. Really, Chris? Yes, really. We're going to talk about the superhero trademark lawsuit. This was something I had reported on, I want to say a few months ago, but we've got an update on it. Somebody is suing to say that the trademark on the word superhero hasn't really been enforced and is up for grabs. That's an interesting question, Wally, and I'm pretty sure I have seen comments that say that they only watch one or the other. So absolutely. I've got some people that definitely watch this that just hang out here. Yeah. Oops, that's between somebody else. Okay. So let's see. I'll lay some groundwork here. 1977, Marvel and DC, two biggest publishers in the industry, decide let's collaborate on something. Let's both get the trademark on the word superhero. They wanted nobody else to be using that. Obviously, other publishers had used that in the past, like Dell, but, Dell's time had come and gone by 1977. And so this was the big boys, being a little bit of a bully, I would say. They applied jointly for the trademark to the word superhero. I know that sounds like a generic term, but no, technically, Marvel and DC do hold an active copy or active trademark on the word superhero, the term. And that was granted late 1979. So, more recently, there's a British comics creator, a guy named Scott Richhold. Not super familiar with him, but he has a company called Super Babies Limited, and he challenged the trademark. Somebody had to, I guess, and good for Scott for stepping up. This is one of the exhibits in his lawsuit, or is it called an exhibit? I'm pretty sure it's called an exhibit. I'm not a legal. I ain't a lawyer like these fancy pants boys from New York City, Your Honor, but I do know how to read. Anyway, so it has examples of other companies using the term superhero. Archie has used superhero. Image has used superhero. Lots of people have used superhero. And in order to hold a trademark, you have to legally enforce it. It's just like having a copyright or a registration. You do have to defend that use. And there's plenty of examples of Marvel and DC allowing other places to use the word Invincible. This particular example is for a bunch of the run. Invincible had the header, the best superhero comic book in the universe. It's funny. Good for Kirkman for doing that. But that is an example of Marvel and DC not cracking down on it.
I am the law. Throw down your weapons and prepare to be judged.
That's a flawless Sylvester Stallone impression. Anyway, so this week, Super Babies, the company, asked the court for a default judgment, saying, hey, we don't even need to go to trial. We believe, based on the merits that I'm about to read to you, the court should just rule in our favor. So they've asked for a default judgment, which means I should have an answer or an update on this story pretty soon. They state that DC Comics and Marvel Comics, they had filed a motion to extend their time to answer these charges by the 24th of July. And they haven't done anything. And they haven't requested further time to respond. So, as a result, they've defaulted. And I agree. I have to imagine this is not super important, if I'm being honest right now. As in, look, you think that Disney and, Warner Brothers doesn't have enough money to spend on lawyers to defend this word if they thought that they had a case? They must not think they have a case. That's just my interpretation. But they can if they file it together, which they did. They worked together on that one. Teamwork. That's what DC and Marvel's all about. Anyway, so yeah, we will see if the court does in fact grant them a default judgment, but it looks, by all accounts, like Marvel and DC haven't really responded to this other than their initial request to the courts to have an extension to give them time to respond. And so, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, when the Fine Brothers wanted to trademark React, that didn't go over so well. But yeah, believe it or not, this is something Marvel and DC have owned for decades, but I think there's plenty of examples of them not enforcing it. I think it really did just fall into the vernacular, the term superhero, as compared to, say, like super-powered being or something like that. Yeah. Superhero shouldn't have been trademarked. Trademark's office is messed up. I agree with you there, EJ. It seems very strange that they granted it in the first place. By 1977, I think you could make the argument that was a pretty common term. And to give the trademark to those companies is pretty weird. By the way, since EJ is there, look at this. I'm just going to show this off real quick. This is EJ's cover to Ultraman Avengers. Technically a variant cover, but how gorgeous is that? Look at the perspective and the detail on the background. That's a lot of characters to balance, but I think it's a pretty clear and clean image where your focus is constantly drawn to Ultraman versus Fin Fang Foom, which is just a hilariously cool idea. We'll talk about that later, but just since EJ was there, I wanted to point out that I love that cover. All right, going back to the news. West Coast Avengers, what is its theme? We'll talk about that. So, West Coast Avengers, the comic book title, that's returning November 27th. Artist is a guy named Danny Kim. I have to admit, not super familiar, at least yet. Writer is Jerry Duggan, one of Marvel's bigger names these days. Does a lot for them. Did a lot for the last couple of years of X-Men. So Duggan talked about what his idea is for this comic. What justifies its existence, you could say. Quote, redemption has been on my mind this year, and we'll see who can be redeemed on the West Coast. It's a fun action story, but it's also an Ultron tale, and one of my biggest Marvel swings yet. I previously had the pleasure of writing a pretty great horror story about Ultron wearing Pym's face. He's talking about Hank Pym, Ant-Man, the original Ant-Man, his creator. And this is a very different tale with one of my favorite Marvel characters and one of my favorite legacy titles in the city that has been my home for so long. Wait until you see what Danny Kim is cooking up. Find redemption in November in the City of Angels. I have to admit that if that's your whole theme, then I guess that might justify having Ultron in there. Ultron has a complicated history where I think that there would be potential to redeem a Ultron. But the thing is with Ultron being like essentially an AI, you know, he's an artificial intelligence. You could have your cake and eat it too with this character by redeeming one version and still having, say, a duplicate or a variant evil one. I'm just saying you really could do something like that. Yeah. I think that's what Jerry's thinking. And I will say that the theme of redemption does work very well in comics, or with superhero stories in general. And you know, something that comes to my mind all of a sudden, and it almost dates me now, but the show Angel, that was a spinoff of Buffy, you know, about a vampire with a soul. That was a 5-season long superhero show for all intents and purposes. All about redemption. And that's just one thing that pops into my head. You know, you've had different arcs of a lot of different characters seeking redemption. It's sometimes been successful, most of the time not long term. You know, there have been attempts at redemption for characters like Sandman or Sabretooth in the Marvel universe that have failed, whereas Venom, I think, has been successful. Redemption was very much what the original run of Thunderbolts was about, redemption. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know what the current continuity is. I know Rick Remender did do a story arc where Hank Pym and Ultron got turned into one being, but I don't know what the current story is. Hold on, I'm seeing Chemdog says that Hank is his own man again. And I'm not surprised. Oh, okay, yeah. Ewing brought back fleshy Hank Pym, but he's from the future. Okay, so they haven't really separated it necessarily, right? Anyway. I liked West Coast Avengers as a title back in the day. Now the Avengers moniker is very popular, so we get things like Mighty Avengers, Uncanny Avengers, you know. But the idea of having a team just based on different locations actually does make sense to me. So we'll see if it's any good. Oh, there I go again. I do tend to say we'll see, because I think we're all in this together. We're all in this comics nonsense together. Got some more Marvel stuff. So Beau DeMayo, I think a lot of people will know that name right now, but if you don't, Beau DeMayo was the showrunner and the writer, the main writer for X-Men 97 Season 1, and he got fired by Marvel. Well, there's been some twists and turns, especially in the past week, to see what happened. So it was about 5 months ago, first of all, that Marvel fired Beau DeMayo off of X-Men 97. This week, he posted this image that I've got to the right here. He posted this to Twitter. And Beau said that he says that he was fired because he had shared this image, a fan art of him as Cyclops. He says that that's why he was fired. And then he says that Marvel sent him a letter notifying him that they've stripped him of his season 2 writing credits due to this post. There's some truth to there, but I don't think, from what I've read, I'm not sure Beau is being 100% upfront with everybody. So, because basically the rumor was that he got fired for having an OnlyFans account that was kind of saucy. But that never quite made sense to me because he had that before and Marvel had been working with him for a long time. It looks like that was not really the case, just to be clear. There's something more here that I'm going to talk about. Marvel issued a statement based on this post where he said, that he was fired for sharing this fan art. This is specifically what Marvel wrote to the Hollywood Reporter to give a statement. Mr. DeMayo was terminated in March 2024 following an internal investigation. They also added that given the egregious nature of the findings, we severed ties with him immediately, and he has no further affiliation with Marvel. So nobody that I know has gone on record with their name, but you can find a lot of posts across like Reddit and other social media where other people that were in the writer's room say that the problem was Beau kept sending them unsolicited pictures of him in like a costume, basically like this, like, soup, like, and sometimes naked and sometimes almost naked. And he would say like, this is for inspiration. So he'd be wearing like, barely wearing a superhero costume. And he says, use this as inspiration. That is what I've seen alleged anonymously. I'm sure eventually somebody was probably going to put their name to it, but like right now it's anonymous, but that would line up with Marvel saying that they did an internal investigation and that they fired him for something egregious. Yeah, and just to be clear, while the Hollywood Reporter article that talks about this has Marvel's statement, and they don't go into exactly why, they do say that the nature of it was sexual harassment. So I'm just saying, like, unfortunately, all signs point to him not having been completely proper with the people that he worked with and that sort of reported to him. There's a chance that some of this could be fake, I suppose, but Marvel is not saying that they fired him for having an OnlyFans account. And that they say that it's because of, sexual harassment. And that does make a little more sense to me. We'll see. I don't know. But so why did he get his credit stripped though? One last thing here. So Marvel and Beau had an agreement that he would still be credited as the writer of season 2, even though he wasn't like the showrunner or anything like that, because he had written basically all of season 2 of X-Men 97. But the agreement apparently was based on he had to stop tweeting about being fired by Marvel. He just wasn't supposed to talk about that anymore. That was their agreement. He's never stopped talking about it. So Marvel said, all right, the goal here was to sever ties. So they've cut his credit. We'll see. I just said it again. I do think he's talented. X-Men 97 was great, in my opinion. It's great. And if he laid out season 2, that's encouraging to think that it's got, a good structure. But apparently they have had new writers come in and rewrite stuff. And I don't know, I don't want to use the phrase I keep leaning on, but we're going to have to wait and watch season 2 when it comes out to see if the quality holds up. I want it to. I liked X-Men 97 a lot more than I expected to. So, well, I can understand that. Yeah, it always makes me uncomfortable to sort of be on the side of like big business because, yeah, I tend to trust the individual person more. But there are some concerning stories if you go into like Reddit where people are telling stories that line up. Anyway, we'll see. That is crazy though. If you don't know what Mike Manhattan is talking about, somebody died in a theme park, and Disney's lawyers are trying to argue that because the guy that died had Disney Plus, which has in your terms of service that if there's a disagreement, you'll first try to go to arbitration rather than, court. They're saying that should apply here. And I'm like, come on, like nobody would sign knowingly an agreement saying if I die in the theme park, I agree that my heirs will try arbitration first. That's ridiculous. That's just crazy. So yeah, technically we don't know for a fact the truth of this, but we've got some more details that imply that there was more to the story than just being fired for having an OnlyFans, which he had before he did X-Men 97. Moving on. Joe Jusko. A lot of us have seen his work before. Great painter. Has done a lot for Marvel, especially with things like trading cards, but has done covers over the years. I can't think off the top of my head internal pages that Joe Jusko has done. It's possible, but I think he's mostly like covers, trading cards, things like that. So he said that he's not going to sign any of his Marvel Masterpieces XL work. Let me explain why, though. I think he's got a really good argument here. So the trading card company Upper Deck announced Marvel Masterpieces XL. What is that? That's an enlarged version of the artwork Joe did for them back in 2016 for something called Marvel Masterworks. Marvel Masterpieces. That's what it was called. Not Masterworks. I'm sorry. Masterpieces. They're going to print the cards 5x7. Basically almost manga sized. Big. Big for a trading card. So yeah, 2016, he did like tons of these, like, paintings of all sorts of cool superheroes and stuff like that. Tons and tons and tons of them for a whole set. And now they're re-releasing it bigger. But Jusko posted to Facebook that he's not getting paid for this work. So he's decided he's not going to sign them. And just for the record, Marvel has reused some of this artwork before for variant comic covers, and he said, yeah, he did get compensated for that, like when they reused it for that. So here's his statement. As I just informed CGC and have made known in the Marvel Masterpieces Collectors Facebook group, since I have received no compensation for this reprint set, I will not be signing any of these cards, ever. He's primarily saying CGC because they've got, a signature series they'd send to him. I am not telling anyone not to buy or sell them. I would never be that self-important. I just want people to be aware that I will not be signing them. Thank you all for your understanding. Note, I'm not going to discuss particulars on a public forum. This is simply a public service announcement and my last word on the matter. I think that's more than fair. I'm curious to see what kind of responses you guys have. Oh, hold on. I'm seeing an update here. Andy says Jusko posted that he and Upper Deck have a tentative deal. Okay, hold on. This is breaking news. Breaking news. We cut now to our reporter in the field, me. Bear with me as I open up a new window. News. they also had originally, like when Marvel Masterpieces was originally released, it had Jusko's name on the boxes, and the new ones they didn't. Okay, I'm not seeing it as official news article. Oh, it's on his Facebook? Okay, give me a moment to see if I can find that. I just want to confirm this. I appreciate it. I do trust you. I'm just pulling it up in front of me now. I hope that that's true, because it seemed very strange to me that they would work with this guy this much and somehow not. Okay. Okay, hold on. I do have something here to share. We've got an update after all. Let me switch this up. Thank you, Andy, for this important comment. So I'm gonna, how do I present this? Share screen. Is this? Yes. Okay, Facebook. Okay, this is Joe's Facebook page, and sure enough, right here, Marvel Masterpieces XL update. I've been in contact with Upper Deck this morning, just this morning. This was 9 hours ago. Oh yeah, that is pretty recent. And I am of the belief that we have come to an agreement on these cards. Thank you for all the support. It has been truly overwhelming and heartwarming. You're the best fans anyone could ask for. That's pretty awesome. Then we've got a happy update to the story that I was breaking. I am so happy. That's amazing. Wow. Bear with me. I'm going to take a sip of coffee to celebrate. You know what? It makes sense too, because Marvel has used Joe's work for a long time. Why would you not be fair and keep him happy? It's pretty weird that they even tried to sort of like put this out. But if he's being compensated for this reprint set at the bigger scale, that's good. That's nice to see. Okay. Thank you, Andy, in the chat for updating us on that. It's rare that the news is still so fresh that there's an update on top of that, but that is good. So I'm going to add back the news document I had, and we will keep going. I guess so. I mean, it's still news in the sense that Upper Deck, for about a week was announcing this. And like, if you look at their box, it still doesn't have Joe's name added to it. So there's some stuff that needs to be worked out, but I'm glad that there's a tentative deal in place. I am glad to see that. That's the right thing. That's the right thing. All right. This is one of the bigger news stories that came out this week. Darn, I meant to have each of these come out one at a time instead of overwhelming you with a block of text. But actually, you know what? Hold on. I'm going to do something real quick. I know what I want to do. I'm going to go into the document and make a small edit, because I can do that. I'm amazing like that. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. Now I just add it right back. Okay, here's the news. An Oregon man, my neck of the woods, Pacific Northwest, has been accused of stealing $300,000 worth of comics and fees for comics. Yeah, a lot of money. Yes, a lot of money. Anyone that follows the CGC forums may know about this, because this guy's been in the news for a while. He was basically off the grid for a while, but now he's been arrested. So I've got stuff to talk about. His name's Michael DeChalis, and I might be mispronouncing that. I've never heard him say his name. I've seen him in the news, but I haven't listened to him say his own name. But anyway, Michael DeChalis, 57, of Almsville, Oregon, is accused of stealing more than $300,000 in comic books and restoration fees. That's what he does, comic book restoration, from at least 20 customers who had hired him to repair their valuable, often rare, comic books. The Lynn County, Oregon Sheriff's Office started investigating this guy back in February, when a customer of DeChellis's now defunct store, Hero Restoration, complained that DeChellis had not returned a $62,000 comic book that he had sent in for restoration. So basically, this guy was being given a bunch of high-end comics to restore. And I have an update to all of this once I talk this through. So, as investigators began to investigate, that's what they do, by the way. They discovered DeChellis had resold some of the stolen comic books online and to another comic book shop in Washington. They don't list which one. So he had these customers' comics, and rather than return them, he was selling them. I don't know what he planned to do there. That is bonkers. So the sheriff's office got a search warrant. They went, and DeChellis was arrested this week. When the sheriff's deputies went into his house, they found a bunch of comic books, and they say evidence of theft. So I'm assuming they saw some specific comic books. DeChellis is charged with 7 counts of first-degree aggravated theft and 5 counts of first-degree theft. I don't know what the maximum sentence involved would carry. I'm just not smart enough to figure that out, I guess. But I bet it's not nothing. I would have to imagine there could be some significant jail time there. On top of this, so this guy's a professional comic book restoration guy, right? And apparently he's been on some YouTube shows that I just when I just searched his name, I found a bunch of appearances that he's done in the past. And so yeah, here you're probably right that if it was just $300,000 for one thing, that's grand theft. But remember, this is adding up to about $300,000 worth of comics that were never returned and the fees that he took and never performed the work for several different customers. So it's not just one count of $300,000 is all I'm saying. There is an Instagram account I want to shout out. Let me see if I can find that. Okay. Sanderson Studios, and anybody that's into comic collecting probably knows about Kenny Sanderson. Kenny Sanderson is apparently a very good comic book restoration expert, and he's been getting comics from DeChellis that DeChellis was like, I did the best I could. I can't do it. Can you please do the work? And I assume he was planning on just passing on whatever Kenny Sanderson charged him. He'd just charge that back to the customer plus whatever feed he collected early on. So yeah, if you look up Sanderson_studios in Instagram, there are some great examples of the restoration work that he can do. I can't really speak to the quality of what DeChellis himself was capable of. I just haven't seen that. But yeah, it's it's just another wrinkle that shows that this guy hasn't been honest for a long time. He's been sending his work to somebody else to get restored. And apparently, there's one story on Kenny Sanderson's account, Sanderson Studios. Scroll down and look for the Hulk #1, original first issue of the Hulk. It looks to be like a copy of the Hulk that was maybe something like a 6.0. And apparently DeChellis says, I can improve that to a 9.6, which is just way too high. That's just bonkers. That's just crazy. So, but he's been arrested. Things aren't looking great for him. That is a lot of money and a lot of comics that probably won't make their way back to the original people that sent them in. Hopefully a bunch of people do get their comics back. But yeah, not good. Not good. And you would think, well, that's plenty of comic book restoration stories for News of the Week, Chris. And I normally say, yeah, you're right. That is plenty. but there's more this week. I did it again. All right, whatever. Sorry. I like for the bullets to pop up as I scroll down. Look at this. Some comic restorers that are definitely worth their salt and are super talented. They won a $10 million lawsuit against CGC. I think that's a big enough number that it warrants repeating. $10 million. $10 million. This couple, Matt and Emily Myers, they've been fighting CGC for 8 years in the court, and they won. They finally won their case. I believe they won their case on appeal too. So it should be done. The couple apparently were so good at restoring comics that the CGC accused the couple of falsifying their work. Reputation is everything in this industry. And so that led to a dramatic loss in business. Just to be clear, we are talking about stuff that is worth a lot of money. Yes, a graded comic that has been restored is marked that it's been restored. It can still drastically improve the value of rare comics because we have made it, we've helped preserve it, the people that have worked on it. The accusations against the couple was that they were, actually, now that you say that, I guess I don't have the full details, do I? I think I was making an assumption on something now that I think of it. But, I guess you could be swapping it out, like you could be swapping pages of a better copy of that issue, for instance. You could theoretically be faking it like that instead of actually pressing and cleaning or going in like my understanding is that Matthew Myers created a new technique where he'd go in like ink dot by ink dot with the paint to restore something very, very carefully, like dot pixel by pixel, essentially, but manually as a way of like fixing it up. But yeah, so that drastically impacted their business. Like that took away like their income and everything. Well, a Pennsylvania jury decided in favor of this couple. They awarded them $10 million, $5 million in reputational and economic damages, and an additional $5 million in punitive damages. Juries can be brutal sometimes, but let's just, I guess, CGC is going to be knocking on Jay-Z's door for a little bit more of an investment soon, right? Jay-Z is an investor in the CGC, if you don't know. So, $10 million. Like, CGC has been having kind of a tough year, I would say. Like, they had like some employees that were like stealing. They've got problems where people have found ways to crack open the spine and swap out the book, and sometimes just send things like that back to be reholdered, and they weren't being inspected carefully. So CGC is got to do a lot to work on their reputation, because in this field, reputation is everything. That's what I was just thinking, Kevin. Does CGC even have $10 million like in liquid assets? I have no idea. That seems like an awful lot of money. I don't know. I would imagine that they have some valuable comics that the company has acquired over the years that they could sell, but wow. You're probably not too far away from being able to slab a good sandwich and get it like, I don't know. They just probably like fill it with resin. So it's locked in eternal, beautiful state. This was the best Subway sandwich I ever saw. Pretty dramatic though, right? $10 million. That's just amazing. And like I say, when I read this decision, it said that was a decision made on appeal, which means I think that's the end of it. I'm pretty sure. Again, I ain't no lawyer. I just, from what I could read. I should keep moving because I've got a lot of comics I want to talk about tonight, and I want to draw. So, going to keep moving. But that just was a dramatic story that I wanted to pause on for a moment. Transformers. Transformers has been doing pretty darn well for Image and Hasbro and Skybound. And yeah, I think that the comic is, one of the biggest things out there right now. It did just win Daniel Warren Johnson 2 Eisner Awards this year. Well, now they're going to have a Transformers comic for young adult readers. Skybound, obviously doing well with the Energon universe. Now they're adding a young adult middle grade Transformers comic. So it's not part of the overall continuity. This is its own thing, but it's about a Transformer who transforms into a ballpoint pen. So it's called Transformers Worst Bought Ever Meet Ballpoint. And that's going to be the first release from Skybound Comet. That's Skybound's new young reader imprint. And that comes out in July. I thought that was a pretty funny idea for a comic, like a little transformer that only transforms into a pen. That's pretty funny. Yeah, it's kind of fun, right? I have a Optimus Prime pen transformer somewhere, but it's almost all plastic and it doesn't transform very well. I have to disagree. Ballpoint is the worst bought ever. A dog pooper scooper is the worst bought. But has that been made? We'll say that Ballpoint is the worst so far. Jim would draw an awesome Transformers thing if he wanted to. That would be really cool. That would be really cool. Yeah, I guess July of next year. So quite a ways off, apparently. I was surprised to see that pop up. But yeah. Mightier than the sword. It will be a big miss if they don't have that line in there. You guys are good. Yes, Whiteout. Whiteout the Decepticon. And then they'd make fun of him because they're like, white is a good color. You are not a good Decepticon, Whiteout. Be more like Blackout here. Does he have the ability to have a naked woman appear if you flip him upside down? I think he's meant to be sort of adorable, and clearly he this is a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer story, isn't it? I mean, we know that he'll eventually prove his worth. So sometimes you need a pen, right? Who knows? Maybe the Transformers sign a peace treaty and they need Ballpoint services for that. I don't know. It seemed cute to me. I've got a bunch of DC news starting now. So the first one I want to talk about is their plans to have the New Gods face their own version of Ragnarok, which I do find a little interesting because Jack Kirby, when he created the New Gods, that was very much, him saying like, look, I've been doing Thor forever. What if like all those characters did go through the end of all things for them, went through Ragnarok, and then like some sort of new generation emerged out of that. That was his idea for all intents and purposes. In fact, I've done an episode about this stuff with Jack Kirby, and you can see in the background, he draws some hints in New Gods #1, some hints at like some of the stuff that he created in Thor. But what are we going to talk about? But they've never done this in DC. So what's it going to be? Well, Screen Rant spoke with Ram V at San Diego Comic-Con. Ram V is going to be the new writer of New Gods. It's part of the DC All-In initiative. And he said, I'm taking the structure of the larger conflict quite literally from the sort of new end of the world and mythology. It's the new Ragnarok, if you will. And he added, New Gods was really fertile ground where really nothing had been planted in recent history. Also, I have a great love of mythology and mythological stories, so it felt like the New Gods are sort of contemporary mythology in the DCU. I don't know. Maybe he's right. Maybe. All I can think off the top of my head there is Ram V is good at building mythology, not just a good story, but a mythology. I didn't read all of it, but his Batman run at Detective Comics, he did sort of build the idea of Batman being seen as like a mythological entity. So he has sort of touched on some of that. Yes, they did do The Death of the New Gods by Jim Starlin. It's really cool. It's really interesting. But they certainly haven't like applied that to the DC universe proper, at least in a long time. We'll see. I like Ram V, so I guess I'm inclined to trust him to take a shot at something like this and deliver something unexpected. I tend to be impressed with his writing. What else? David Dastmalchian. Oh my God, does this guy love comic books? I think we've talked before about how he played at least 5 different comic book roles in movies and TV, at least 5. But he's also written some comics, Count Crowley, for instance. In a month or two, he's got the one coming out through Todd McFarlane's Spawn imprint, although it's like its own story where David Dastmalchian's writing a story. What is it, like Pirates versus Samurai or Knights versus Samurai? That's what it is. Samurai versus Knights. So he's also writing Creature Commandos for DC, mainstream superhero book. Dastmalchian's paired up with artist Jesus Hervas, and they're going to make a new book called DC Horror Presents Creature Commandos, and that comes out October 2nd. Not too far away. But just to be clear, this isn't a tie-in or connected in any way to the DCU stuff that James Gunn is doing, like that animated movie that we already know is coming out. It's not connected to that. No, this is specifically in the DC universe. Dastmalchian. He spoke with Games Radar, and he said that the book is, quote, a pretty serious and dramatic military monster story, and that it was inspired by the Weird War Tales comics by J.M. DeMatteis and Pat Broderick. That's where Creature Commandos was invented. It is sort of a military idea. And Dastmalchian also added that because it's set in the DC universe proper, it gave him some additional abilities to do things that he wanted to do. He goes, thankfully, I have access to these characters I've always wanted to play with and incorporate, and I felt like a really amazing hero to bring into the story would be Zatanna. I'm so excited. The art is so cool. I love that this guy just loves comics this much, and hopefully that passion shines through. Definitely not to be confused with Karate Commandos. Art by Steve Ditko, we will remember. Art by Steve Ditko. Yes, there is. What's her name? Because I don't think it's Medusa, but there is a creature like that. Yes, I can't think of it right now. Should be fun. Should be fun. They've got some good monsters in the DC universe. I like when they play with that stuff and set it explicitly within the world of their superheroes. Tom King is about to launch a Trinity series, an ongoing Trinity series from what we're seeing in the news. If you don't know, Trinity is the future daughter of Wonder Woman, and she's been appearing in the current Wonder Woman comics in backup comic strips. I've been reviewing them here on this show for several months. Drawn by Belen Ortega. She does a great job with this stuff. The backup stories feature different eras of Trinity, the future daughter of Wonder Woman. We see her as a toddler, as an adolescent, sometimes as a young teenager. They're just funny, like one-off stories that are meant to sort of be lighthearted and contrast with a very serious Wonder Woman story. And in all of those, she's paired with Damian Wayne and John Kent, who are a little older. They're basically sort of like her surrogate brothers. They're her babysitters, and it's all about their contrasting personalities, the three of them. It's pretty darn good. Well, according to Bleeding Cool, when this new Trinity series launches, it says all three versions, all three ages that we've seen of Trinity are going to be interacting together. Now, there is precedent for that technically. If we go back to Wonder Woman number 124 from 1961, written by Bob Kanigher, who wrote the craziest stories in comics, just absolutely bonkers. That had a story featuring Wonder Woman, Wonder Girl, which was the young Wonder Woman back then, not Donna Troy, and Wonder Tot. Basically, like, yeah, a really, really young Wonder Woman. And they all teamed up in an imaginary story. I mean, they're all imaginary, but like this one was sort of like a story that was told within the comics by Queen Hippolyta, Wonder Woman's mother. So neat. You sound fun. You're missing out if you don't like this. Like the Trinity stories in the backup of Wonder Woman are fantastic. This is a great book. Wonder Woman might end up being one of my top 10 for 2024, honestly. That's how much I recommend it. And I think Belen Ortega is just a really fun artist. She yeah, just really, really cool. I don't know. I've never heard that. I've never really read up on Robert Kanigher. I would love to do an episode on comic tropes about Bob Kanigher because his stories were crazy. That's still a mystery. Like I say, we just know that Trinity is, you know, Wonder Woman's daughter in the future, but the stories that we've seen are just Trinity, Damian, and John. So we don't know who her dad is. Oh man, yeah, like that's kind of the thing that really made me take notice of Daniel Warren Johnson is Wonder Woman Dead Earth. I'd read his stuff and enjoyed it in extremity, but like somehow Wonder Woman Dead Earth like really opened my eyes. I wouldn't have thought that this is the kind of character that I'd get that excited about, but I've really been enjoying Tom King's run. So could be good. Could be good. Other stuff that Tom King's doing at DC, sort of a martial artist battle royale. Who's the best of the best? Well, that's sort of the goal of this next comic. Tom King and artist Ryan Sook. So underrated. Ryan Sook is insanely good. They're going to launch a Black Canary, Best of the Best. That's set for November 26th. Okay. 6-issue series is going to feature Black Canary preparing for a martial arts battle with Lady Shiva. I'm going to come loop back to talking about Lady Shiva in a sec. So along the way in this comic, in her training, she's going to be having matches with Batman, Wildcat, her mother, the original Black Canary. We're going to sort of see where the martial artists of the DC universe rank. Because a lot of the comics say Lady Shiva is the best overall martial artist. But because they always say that she's the best, they have the Worf effect. A lot of people call it the Worf effect, as in Star Trek The Next Generation, Worf is always said to be the toughest. He's the big Klingon security officer. So since it's so episodic, every time they need to show that there's a new threat that's really strong, what they do is they have that threat come in and just knock Worf down. That happens a little bit to Lady Shiva, you know, like Robin, Tim Drake needs to be portrayed as the new Robin and get trained by her and stuff. Oh my God, he actually was able to beat Lady Shiva. So no, this is not listing everybody that's in it. Like it's supposed to have a bunch of different fighters that are well regarded. So Cheshire could be in there for all I know. Yeah. I'm sure that is an intentional reference to, the best of the best fight movie. Yeah, her mother is alive in this continuity. I think that a tournament story could be a lot of fun, but the thing that excites me the most is just the fact that Ryan Sook is drawing it. One of my favorite artists. I don't get enough from him. He did post, I don't know if it was Twitter or Instagram right now, but he drew, I was about to say dozens, but it literally might be over 100 variations of Black Canary that he was just doing for fun. He was just drawing like every outfit anybody that has the name Canary in DC has ever had. And so there's lots of cool variations. Just his artwork is clean, detailed, but emotive. You know, there's a story told with somebody's pose and their face and stuff. It's not just cool looking. It's like you see something about the character there. I bet that character will be in there. I think that would be super likely. Super likely. Just having a boost of caffeine. We'll keep going. I'm looking forward to that, actually. I think that that's a cool idea. Just kind of a simple premise, a big fight, and getting ready for the big fight, but by a writer and artist who's really talented. DC's doing something nice with the Heroes Initiative, the Superman 100 project. So, yeah, they've announced that they're going to do this book together. Let me explain what it is. It's going to have a limited edition hardcover, and then for most of us, a regular soft cover. Comes out December 18th, and it features 100 different artists drawing Superman on the blank cardstock cover. You know, like basically, yeah, what do they call them these days? Like, you know, the blank... what do they call blank covers that artists are supposed to draw on? Isn't there a term for it? If there is, it's not coming to me. But Superman number 6 had been printed with a blank cover. I can't think of what those are called. It doesn't really matter. But I think you guys know what... Are they called sketch covers? Maybe they are. They are called sketch covers. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's... Right. Okay, then yeah, that must be what they're called. It just wasn't coming to me. But anyway... It had a blank cover, and a bunch of artists started drawing it. So Hero Initiative talked to DC, and they're like, let's gather these and actually print them all. When a top-tier artist is given just a blank cover and allowed to go to town with whatever idea captures their fancy, a lot of times you're going to get some spectacular results. So if you don't know, the Hero Initiative is a nonprofit organization, and it's designed to help out struggling professional artists. If they've got, you know, credits and can say, hey, I've worked in the industry, but now I'm having financial needs for housing or medical bills or something like that, that's what the Hero Initiative is there for. It actually happens to be a charity that I support each year. I think that it's you know, a worthy, valid charity because there's so many artists and writers and all the other people that work on comics that have given me entertainment. The least I can do is try to contribute something towards an organization that helps them out if they're in need. I know I was about to start listing people who've benefited from them, but it's not important. They've helped a lot of people. So the original sketch covers themselves are also going to be auctioned off to benefit the Hero Initiative. That's starting in October. So we'll get some more details probably within a month for that. And then the limited edition hardcover version of this is going to be available in 2 places. Directly from the Hero Initiative website and also through the Third Eye Comics chain in the Northeast. They're based in like the Maryland area. And that's December 18th when those will actually go for sale. And then if you look on the at the image on the right, it just lists some of the artists that it's got. You know, hey, Kevin Eastman, Ninja Turtles, Dan Jurgens, classic Superman artist, Frank Miller, Frank Quitely. Yes, please, I'll get anything by Quitely. I saw some examples by guys like Dave Johnson, who I'm a huge fan of. But with 100 names, there's an excellent chance a bunch of artists that you like are included in this. You could find more details from that on the Hero Initiative website. And again, it's a charity that I endorse. I think that they have good reviews of low overhead and a good mission statement. I just wanted to point this out. How many of you guys saw that DC made an actual ad, a trailer for their comics this week? Because I've got it down here and I'm going to play it, but I was just curious how many of you had seen this before I even start playing it. And I'm going to give it a moment because there's a delay with when I'm talking to when people are able to respond in chat. Okay. Chemdog saw it. Owen's Reviews saw it. Well, this came out this week. I didn't. Good. I haven't seen it. Okay. So there's some music to this. That's not important. There's no dialogue or anything like that. This is just an ad that they made to promote compact comics. Look at that. Just showing how you could like easily take these books out and about. You know, read them at a cafe, toss them in your book bag, your purse. Take them camping, take them on a bus, take them on a trip. It's a good ad. It's simple. But look at that. You get a full story for $9.99. I have to say, I think this is one of the better ideas DC has had in a while. I think that in general, trade paperbacks are a good value, but for some of this older stuff that's been in print, that they can like put together 10 to 12 issues and sell it to us for $10. I don't know. I like that. I like that this ad just sort of emphasizes the compact nature and how you can carry it with you pretty darn easily. You know, it's nice. True. They did not show somebody using it in the toilet, which would have been very believable and realistic. I don't think that they're playing it on TV, but yet anyway, this just came out this week, but they could. I think it's a good trailer. I think it gets the concept home very quickly. And, you know, it just ends with this screen showing how much they cost and kind of gives you even an idea of how thick they are. And in the comic, the ad, you get to see some of the titles that they've got. You know, if you haven't for some reason read All-Star Superman or Watchmen or something like that, these are kind of must-read books, and $10. It's a good value, in my opinion. So I just got a kick out of that, and I think that there should be more ads for comics. I hope it does air on like TV or streaming services at some point. I think it would be a very good place to put that stuff. I mean, let's see how the first one sells, because they've got the first, I think, 12 issues of the Snyder Capullo run as one of their books. And if it sold super well, of course, they're going to release more books outside. I kind of like that. It's sort of, when it's $10, you can get a little back towards the disposable nature of comics. It doesn't have to be collected. It can just be read and enjoyed. Wait, the lady with the glasses sitting at the cafe is a friend of mine. That's awesome. That's really cool, Xavier. Congrats to her. I would say, I hope Marvel's paying attention. I hope Image is paying. Actually, I know Image is paying attention on some level, because we do know that Saga by Staples and Vaughn is getting a reprinted edition in the smaller format. So I think that it is something that comic companies will start doing. And I don't think it's just because of how well manga sells at that size. It's literally the most popular size for books in general. So the book market is doing well, and I think it's a good idea. The compact size needs to account for the lettering. Getting too small is my concern, but I love the idea. And in my opinion, I got one of them. I don't know where I put it. I got Far Sector, Green Lantern Far Sector. And in my opinion, the lettering is not too small at this size. And if it was any smaller, honestly, they'd probably just have a professional re-letter it. But it isn't too small, in my opinion. Invincible is doing it too? That's really good to hear. Wow. I mean, $10 isn't nothing, but I think these days that's pretty affordable for a big story. Anyway, I like that they made an ad for it. I hope it I hope it gets out there and gets some new readers into comics. Why did DCBS cancel DSTLRY orders? Is the next story that I'm going to share. So Bleeding Cool reported on how DSTLRY, they're a newer publisher. Do I have a DSTLRY book handy? Do you guys all know who DSTLRY is? I'm seeing if I've got a DSTLRY book. I've gotten a few of them, so I was going to just pull one up as an example, but I'm just I might not have one. Oh, I do have one nearby. I do have one. Hold on. So DSTLRY is a newer publisher, has a lot of top tier creators in it. This is an example. They print at a bigger size. There's their logo. And it's basically the equivalent of two monthly comic books at once that they print. So, newer publisher. DSTLRY was originally distributed through Lunar Distribution, and a little while ago, they switched to Diamond. Diamond got them. We've seen a lot of publishers moving around, getting the best deal they can. I've heard White Boat is good. I've heard that. So, where am I on this? Oops, I jumped ahead too far. When DSTLRY went from Lunar to Diamond, DCBS canceled the retailer orders for any existing DSTLRY comics. Okay? DCBS, if you don't know, I need to give you some background. DCBS is the sister site. They're related to Lunar. They're specifically the online arm, and they're run by the couple Christina and Cameron Merkler. Okay, they've been around for a long time. They've been filling online orders for a long time, but then, like, yeah, they're related, but they're not Lunar. They're related. So, Lunar, the ones that actually physically, like, you know, ship to the store and like exist as more of I'll say it like this. DCBS is more of like an online retailer that can market directly to the individual customer, okay? Whereas Lunar is designed to service the comic book stores, okay? That would be sort of the difference there. Lunar went ahead and told their retailers, look, DSTLRY is canceling those orders through them, and you can reorder through Diamond. Okay? They told them that that's how you need to do it, because we're not carrying them anymore. You can go through Diamond. DCBS sent emails like this one up here that just say the book is canceled. They don't say, we're not carrying it, you need to order it somewhere else. They just say the book is canceled. See, they've got reason, canceled by publisher. That's all they said. So, at things like San Diego Comic-Con last week, customers started seeing some of these books that had been solicited. They saw them at DSTLRY's booth, and they were very upset. They were like, hey, wait a minute. I wanted to order that, and it said it was canceled by the publisher. What gives? There's this confusion, right? There's no communication clear there. They thought that the titles had just been canceled. Well, Bleeding Cool, like, just said, like, no, basically it was just DCBS just told the people that had ordered it, it's canceled. But that's not accurate. They could have reordered it. So Bleeding Cool said that they'd asked for a response from DCBS. They hadn't heard one, but they did eventually get an update after they released this news story. And it said that the response was, Christina Merkler said that online speculation about this, what happened, was, quote, completely wrong, but she didn't offer any additional explanation. DSTLRY does all sorts of genres: sci-fi, horror, romance, westerns, all sorts of stuff. It seems like it's bad behavior. They have, if it isn't bad behavior, they haven't explained themselves accurately. That's all I can say. I think that they were just upset about losing, you know, a publisher, and they were being petty. I think that they were, but I don't know for a fact. There's no way to know. Thank you, Joe. Here's the cash for half of the We Watchmen Digest. Well, I've got Watchmen, so maybe I'll apply it to a book that I haven't read, if that's okay. If that's okay. Thank you for the support. I really appreciate it a lot. Exactly. It's like, no, those rumors are wrong. Oh, okay. Thank you for telling me that. What's the real story? I don't know. Okay. If there's a legit excuse or any excuse, please offer it. I don't know. It's coming. Just be patient. It's coming. Pretty wild news story. I just wanted to mention this because it's fun. I know that there's a lot of fans of Sonic stuff out there. I know there are. Shadow the Hedgehog, Sonic's enemy, is getting his own manga. So it's going to be in Japan, just to be clear. A Shadow manga, I kind of got that out, will debut in Shogakukan's monthly Koro Koro Comics. And that begins September 13th. Yuki Yamada is the artist. And Yuki Yamada has a pretty successful ongoing book, also through Shogakukan, called Mini Four King. It's a racing book. I don't know that I'd necessarily call it as good as Initial D, but it's about like all-wheel driving vehicles. So like being a Mini Four King, it's like, you know, the main character has a tuned four-wheel drive vehicle. Anyway, isn't Shadow Sonic's enemy? I thought that he was. I'm not an expert. Yeah, slot cars. So no word on how long this manga is intended to run. They haven't given us that kind of a detail yet. This image is by Yuki Yamada, so we at least know a little bit about what it will look. And yeah, so it's probably meant to help tie in with the fact that there's this new game coming out October 25th, Sonic Shadow Generations. That third Sonic movie can't be too far away either, right? Didn't they get Keanu Reeves to voice this character for that third movie? I think that's accurate. I like Sonic. I'm not an expert on Sonic. I'm just not. I don't know all the different lore or permutations of the lore. My experience is I played the first two video games back when they came out, and I've seen the two movies. That's kind of the beginning and end of my knowledge on Sonic. Oh, do they? They're more like foils? Okay. Shadow is like Eddie Brock, Venom, Lethal Protector. Oh, okay. Well, something for me to learn, I guess. I don't know if he's got... Do any characters in Sonic have guns? I mean, I figured like... Dr. Robotnik had lasers, but does one of them run around with actual guns? Huh. Are the Conan digests printed in that sort of 5-inch by 7-inch? Oh, sorry, you guys use centimeters and stuff out there, but are they in the more compact size? Shadow had guns in one game? That's wild to me. What? Oh my gosh, that just doesn't feel like it fits tonally from what I know about Sonic. Oh my goodness. Oh, hey, it's my sister Jean. We're always glad to have you here no matter what. We were just sort of at the tail end of the news, but then I have some really cool comics to review still, and I was thinking I'd probably draw tonight and take some questions. I know Lamont Cranston, the Shadow, had guns. Huh. And I'm aware of that because, yes, excuse me, there is one more thing about Sonic because I watched the Knuckles show on Paramount Plus, and that was actually kind of fun. All right, moving forward. We're almost done. I've got two more pieces of news. This is one of them. New York Comic Con has always been a humongous convention. I believe it usually has slightly more attendees than San Diego, and I think that's more based on the fact that the Jacob Javits Convention Center has slightly more capacity than San Diego. I think. I'm not sure. But San Diego has been 5 days for a long time, and New York Comic-Con has been 4. Well, this year it is expanding to 5, but with some wrinkles. So New York Comic-Con announced this week that they added a 5th day on Wednesday, October 16th, but that day is specifically for people that are like retailers, pros, or are presenting, like hosting a panel, things like that at the convention. So it's a limited group of people in that regard. It'll still be a lot of people, but a little more limited. However, there is still going to be programming, like panels, I'm saying, and the convention will be open to those with the badges from noon to 9. So that is still a long day to operate a convention in a humongous convention center. Some of the panels will be hosted by places like Comics Pro. That's the comics retailer trade organization. They host get-togethers so that publishers can talk about new initiatives or changes in distribution, things like that. Tiny Onion will have a panel. That's James Tynion IV's new publisher. I'm sorry, I've got like something in my eye. I keep sort of trying to get rid of it every once in a while. I know that's unprofessional. I should just suffer. Lunar Distribution has a panel. And they'll have a bunch of events focused on networking so that, retailers, for instance, could talk to each other about ways they could either work together or discuss what works for them, try new things. So it's a good idea. It's a good. Just to be clear, these days, some of the big Comic-Cons do stream a lot of their stuff online. They will stream panels. They will stream interviews. Just look it up. Most, like, San Diego and New York, they do have official YouTube channels. I want to say CCXP in Brazil has one. They will stream some content. So some of them do. Some of them do. I'm going to be at I'm going to be at New York Comic-Con for Saturday this year. Just one day, but I am going to go for that day. It's going to be crazy, probably. Last thing I want to talk about is the Harvey Awards. I love the Harvey Awards. I think that the Eisners are probably the best known ones, but the Harveys are also humongous. They are presented, the winners of the Harveys, at New York Comic-Con. So it's almost like I planned out what order the news went in. So let's just quickly blast through some of the things that are nominated to see if there's anybody that has big opinions. But Book of the Year, they don't have as many categories as the Eisners. So this will go a little faster. Book of the Year nominees: Monica by Daniel Clowes, Roaming by the Tamaki Cousins, A Guest in the House. My favorite thing is Monsters Volume 2, Lubeck, Watership Down, Tender by Beth Hetland. Beth Hetland is the artist writer. Tender. Lunar New Year Love Story, Love Everlasting, Where the Body Was, and Radiant Black Volume 5. Congrats to all of those nominees, and that's not an easy one for me to pick necessarily. These are some spectacular books. I think I would go with Monica right now, but I'll just say that Roaming, my favorite thing is Monsters, Where the Body Was, Radiant Black. Those are all books I've talked up on this show many, many times. Digital Book of the Year awards. And I do have a choice for this one. We've got Lore Olympus. That one wins a lot. We've got Unordinary, Encore, Air's Game, Jamie, A Witch's Guide to Burning, Rose Wolves of Swamp and Sea, Boyfriends, and Friday by Brubaker and Martin. Sorry, that is the book that I would choose. That's what speaks to me. Yeah, my feats of strength are going to involve continuing to do this show with minimal water. I think it's a big deal for a superhero book from like Image to get nominated for Book of the Year. I think that's very impressive. That's really great company that this is in. Oh yeah, Harveys are awesome. So what else? We've got Best Children's Book, Lightfall, Lunar Boy, Dungeons and Dragons Club. That's cute. Ant Story, Mexikid, Dog Man. Saving Sunshine, Timid, and Amulet. Again, I've actually heard of a bunch of these, Amulet, Dogman. Mexicid is the one that I've at least read a little of, so I might lean towards that one. But it's not really where I'm an expert. The best young adult book includes Bunt Striking Out on Financial Aid. That's relevant. Sunhead, Brownstone, The Fox Maidens, Homebody, Ghost Roast. I like that title. Deep Dark, Infinity Particles, Roaming, Clementine Book 2, and Prez. Yeah, there's DC has Prez. That might be the only Marvel or DC book in the Harveys this year, now that I think of it. It went real heavy on a lot of indie stuff. I think for that, I would vote for Roaming in this. I really did like Clementine Book 2. But I read Roaming and I blasted through this book. It's really, really good. I do give that a strong recommendation. I read that recently. Oh, nice. That Yes, I shouldn't have used the word superhero without paying a little bit to Marvel and DC. My apologies. It's really good? Okay, noted. Thank you. Almost done with the awards. Like I say, there's not that many categories, but we've got Best Manga. The Summer Hikaru Died, Witch Hat Atelier, Delicious in Dungeon, Freeren, Soichi, Junji Ito's Story Collection, H.P. Lovecraft's The Shadow over Innsmouth, Berserk, Secondhand Love, My Picture Diary, and Okinawa. Look, it probably isn't going to be the one that wins, but I have to go with my heart. I'll vote Berserk on this one. But I respect a lot of these books. I think Witch Hat Atelier is good. I think Freeren is cool. I think that the H.P. Lovecraft Shadow over Innsmouth by Go Tanabe is really cool. Just, I'd go with my heart for my vote. Then we've got Best International Book, second to last category, The Great Beyond, Black Sad Volume 7, Shebek Lebek, Ashes, A Boy Named Rose, Transitions, Layers, and Inside the Mind of Sherlock Holmes. By virtue of the fact that I'm not well educated enough in this category, I'd lean towards Black Sad because I do know and love the work by Juan Diaz Canales and Juanjo Guarnido, but I'm hearing good things like in the chat here saying that this one by Dina Mohammed is good. So I don't know. I know a lot of people love Witch Hat. I think it's got some charming mythology, some great art, really great art. Last category is Best Adaptation from a Comic Book or Graphic Novel. And we've got Justice League, Crisis on Infinite Earths, Deadpool and Wolverine, Multiverses, Demon Slayer. That's the game, just right? Yeah. X-Men 97, Invincible, The Marvels, Loki, and Attack on Titan the musical. Oh boy, what would I choose there? My top three would probably be taking it to Deadpool and Wolverine, X-Men 97, and Invincible. I might give it to X-Men 97 over Deadpool and Wolverine, actually. That is really tough. That is really tough. You guys are funny. No. You don't just, if you're a pro, you don't just get all these books and get to read them. You have to educate yourself. But, just to be clear, that's how most awards are. The Oscars, those movies do get sent to the voting committee, but there's no way to enforce that they've actually watched them all. No, I've got this note here. Pros can apply to vote if they haven't been invited by default. A select few at the very top level will get invited. I'm sure that, say, Jim Lee or Joe Quesada probably get invites, But otherwise, if you're a professional, like I would be considered a professional. I've applied and voted in this before. You can go to the Harvey Awards page and vote, and the voting does close pretty soon, September 2nd. So Yeah, I talked about that in the news a while back. They actually, it's first of all, it's normally just in Japan, but they did take it to New York. I think it was last month. They did, I want to say, 5 showings over 3 days, but otherwise you have to see it in Japan. Yeah. But don't be surprised with the popularity there if they recorded one of them and added to a streaming service at some point. I don't know that manga, I have to admit. I mean, it's not based on a specific comic, you're right, but yeah, it's still based on the comics. Well, that's everything I've got to say about the news. So let's change it up. I'm going to plug in my camera, my second camera, I should say, so that we can look at the comic books that came out this week. So give me just a moment to set that up. I'm just adjusting the focus so that it's nice and clear. Put that there. And we can add a second camera. Perfect. There we go. I don't give a rip. So, what did we get for comics this week? Tell you what, I'm going to start with the one that I have the most to say about. I'm zoomed in a little too much there. Let me back out just a bit. There we go. That's a little better. I have made no secret of the fact I am a massive fan of the team of Brubaker and Phillips. They have gotten themselves to a point as an artist-writer team where they don't do monthly books anymore. Just every 6 months or so, they put out one full story all at once. And it is a delight to be able to read in that format. More power to them. What's this one about? Well, it is like, a gritty noir crime type of story. It is. It's sold out. I'm sorry. There's got to be places online you can order it. I hope. They are turning out masterpieces. I would argue after just yet another banger of a comic, great art, great tone, great storytelling, great character work, just great all around. It's always consistently good. Some of these I like more than others. I don't think I'm quite focused right. Let me adjust this. There. Someday I'll get a better way to hold that up. So I was going to say, with so many great stories in their library of work at this point, I think that it would not be unreasonable to make arguments that they are the best team in comics. And I know that's saying a lot. I really do. And I don't say it lightly. I think they do great work. This particular book, the main character, as just a 6-year-old, had been talked by her really religious mom and a therapist that wasn't very good to, along with 5 other kids, they accused their summer camp teachers of being Satanists. Because in the past, if you guys didn't grow up in this, in the mid to late 70s, all the way through the 80s, there was a satanic panic in American culture. There was just this fear of, that there were actual satanic cults out there that were ready to abuse children. None of it really ever amounted to any real stories. The FBI investigated that kind of stuff. They never really found anything real about it. But she had been involved in that, and it and she feels a guilt and a trauma. She smokes a lot of weed now and kind of just does her own thing. But it was in the news a lot. And this story involves some people that she went to camp with that like had made these accusations. They seem to possibly be dying off or getting killed. And so this like sort of real rogue FBI agent tracks her down and is like, I'm going to protect you, and we're going to like find the others and like protect them. Like, so he thinks that there's a serial killer after her. Without giving it away, I'll just say there's a lot of flashbacks to her past that start, introducing more characters to the story and more twists to the plot. And it goes in some very unexpected directions by the end. There's a lot of betrayal, I will say, in this story, and there are no easy answers. Brubaker and Phillips have done a lot of crime comics, which means a lot of their stories are mysteries, and it does have a definitive sort of killer by the end, right? Every once in a while, they'll upend that with a different type of story. This one ends without clean, easy answers. It challenges its reader. And you're going to get out of this what you put in terms of giving some serious consideration to the themes that it's addressing. I admire this so much, and I'm positive this is one of my top 10 books of the year already. I'm positive of it. It is not a super easy, satisfying answer at the end where you know what that the story is done. And I really admire that they had the courage to tell a story that's different like that, but there is a reason for it, is all I can say. And I can't really get into too much more of it without potentially spoiling the story. And that's not my goal here. My goal is to just do a brief review of what came out recently, okay? I liked it quite a bit. You know, somebody said maybe there'll be a sequel. There could be, or this could serve as its own complete story. It does give a complete story. I want to make that clear. I really liked it. I really liked it. I really admire this team. They're so confident. The storytelling never feels like sloppy or laggy. It feels like every scene in the book feels like it's moving the plot forward, and the character work is just baked into those exposition types of scenes. Everything that's there is there for a reason. Very efficient, very efficient. It might not be for everybody. You know, if you don't like stories about, crime, or if you don't want to hear a story about, the after effects of the satanic panic that America went through, yeah, maybe it's not for you. I'm not saying that it's going to be for everybody, but I admire it. I enjoyed it, which is hard to say because it's not like a happy story. I'm just saying I felt emotions while I was reading it. That's what I can say is I felt tense sometimes when the characters were in danger. I felt uncomfortable when, bad things were happening to otherwise good people. I didn't know where it was going. I didn't know what these characters would do to each other. And this is not flashy storytelling, right? It isn't like big and bombastic and stuff, but it's so believable and it's so easy to read. And, there are decisions that Sean Phillips makes with like, how's he going to frame this shot? Things are closing in on a character here. So we're seeing it through a car door, and the car door is literally separating these two characters. They can't connect over this. That's intentional. That's intentional. The colors, by the way, too, are by Sean Phillips' son, Jacobs, a great artist in his own right. And these color palettes, this is not literal colors, right? If you were looking at this scene taking place even at sunset in the woods, yes, it could be bathed in some oranges, but it isn't going to be all reds and oranges. That isn't literal, but it does give a vibe. It gives an emotion, and it feels real. It feels plausible. I think if I said too much more, it would give away some of the turns that happened. Nope, they're not finished with the Reckless books. They're going to do more of those. They just, so that they don't get burned out just doing just one thing. They had a couple different types of stories that they want to do. And as long as they keep delivering interesting stories, I don't mind if it's new characters. These tend to sell just fine for these guys at this point. Yes, it's not as big as, I don't know, the X-Men reboot or something along those lines. But they do well enough that they can take their time and just deliver full stories. And it's a very satisfying way to read, to get the full story all at once. It's pretty thick. It comes out initially in hardcover. Down the road, they'll probably release a soft cover. But let me just jump to the back where they've got like an ad for the other stuff that they've done together. And look at how these are all trade paperbacks. And this isn't even absolutely everything they've done together. But this is most of it. That's a lot. Fatale, Criminal, Reckless, Kill or Be Killed, and all sorts of spin-offs. Boy, do I admire these guys. They always give me a good read. Definitely my pick of the week. And by the way, how cool is that metallic printing there too? That catches the eye. It's a nice presentation. Beyond just a good story, it's a nice presentation. Before I get to like Transformers and stuff, let me get to something new. I'll talk about X Factor. I've been buying the first issue of each of the sort of new X-Men titles just to see what the creative direction is and what that artist-writer team is bringing. So far, the one I've enjoyed the most, I've seen if I still had it. The one I enjoyed the most was Uncanny X-Men by Gail Simone and David Marquez. I got to think more about exactly how I feel about X Factor here. So, X Factor is about the government recruiting former X-Men members and other mutants to be a government team to go after other mutants. It feels a lot like the X-Force that merged, that sort of morphed into X-Statix, the run by Peter Milligan and Mike Allred. It feels a lot like it's covering some of the same ground there. And I don't know if I like that or if I dislike that yet. I don't know. Joshua Hayes, thank you for the support. I've been repeatedly saying, I don't give a rip, because my clip keeps it zipped. Thank you. If you don't know, in my latest episode, I talk about a really weird Christian comic over on Comic Tropes. And for one scene, I made a little song. I used an AI voice and otherwise just sort of like used sound clips, and I wrote the song, and I like have a quick little rap about the gangs in it. But thank you, Joshua. I appreciate it. I like Mark Russell, so that's why I got this, and I think I like it. Mark Russell has done some great stuff. Superman Space Age. Right now he's doing Batman Dark Age. He's done funny stuff. He's done serious stuff. But in this, we've got like this team that works for the American military, okay? It's led by Angel, long-term, one of the original X-Men. We've got Fire Fist, and you may have seen a version of Fire Fist in Deadpool 2, but Rusty Collins' Fire Fist was actually part of the cast of the original X Factor book back in the 80s. We've got Farrell, who was a Rob Liefeld creation for X-Force. She hasn't been used in a long time. And then we've got a shapeshifter named, what's he named? Sorry, I don't even remember that guy. Cameo. And then this guy that like can do electromagnetic pulses. He's really young. He's called Zyber. And this team, to be clear, is, put out on the red carpet and put in front of the media and stuff. And yeah, the reaction is less than excited. These are not top tier Marvel superheroes. They're not. I mean, Angel is decent, but the rest of them pretty low on the list. And they've got this handler who's like really good at media and stuff, but he's very cynical. He's dark, and he's like, oh, you know, we need to get you guys popular. He's like, if people aren't connecting with the characters, then they'll connect on the plot. And so he sends them after some Russian mutants that, like, you know, we could easily have you know, adversarial relationships with. And the mission goes terribly, just to be clear. The mission goes terribly. Here you can see like the Russians' base on a decommissioned nuclear facility. Like, it blows up. Everybody's in there. As to exactly who survives, unclear. Because at the very end, we get a completely new team, led now by Havoc, Cyclops' younger brother, with a bunch of other people who've been like supporting characters in the past, like Frenzy, Pyro, Cecilia Reyes. Zyber has survived, but he does not feel good about things anymore. I guess I can't. And then a new character called Granny Smite. I don't know. So yeah, we get a completely new team. Like I say, very reminiscent of X-Statix. I know I gave you sort of a recap of it, but even though in the comic, the metatextual lesson is, okay, if you don't care about the characters, you can care about the plot. I would say kind of like that. This is more a setup to what this book will be as compared to spoiling the overall narrative. Okay. I think you need some of this context to decide if it's for you or not. I'm going to at least try issue 2 because it's an interesting look at media as well as government relations and how people can be exploited and hopefully stand up for themselves. And it's the thing that like keeps me from being super excited is the fact that, yeah, this doesn't have the top tier X-Men characters. You know, this is not a book with Wolverine or Cyclops or I don't know who else, Psylocke, Beast, whoever, you know. You thought it was too much of a knockoff of X-Statix and Suicide Squad. I don't disagree. That's why I'm like not giving it a full-throated endorsement, but I do trust Mark Russell because he's typically given me books I really do enjoy. So I kind of am willing to say, okay, this was a lot of setup for the premise, but I'm going to give it a little more time to see where it goes. I don't know. I know, and that's why it hurts. But then again, just to be clear, it's X-Men. Any of these characters could come back. B-listers can be the best because the company will usually let you do whatever kind of crazy idea you have with them. They don't care as much, and that can be cool. Oh, was Frenzy a villain? I didn't know that. I just had seen her in the background of like when they were all living on Krakoa. I didn't know that. Okay. It could be like something cool like Strike Force Morituri, or maybe it's like an imitation of X-Statix, in which case I already got that. I don't know. Another book I'd like to talk about that came out this week is, I want to talk about She-Hulk for just a moment or two. I like She-Hulk as a character. She may have been created for very commercial purposes for Marvel to just secure the rights to She-Hulk so that the TV show didn't create one and have those rights first. She has a somewhat derivative origin, you know, just getting a blood transfusion from the Hulk. But I think She-Hulk is a very well-developed character. You know, she's got a job. She's a lawyer. And she's got a sense of humor. And she always has, you know, actual friendships and actual dating relationships that get explored. And I really liked this run by writer Rainbow Rowell. And she was very lucky, in my opinion, to have artist Andre Genellet work with her. I think that I think he just really does some great expressive characters. I think he made She-Hulk look pretty but powerful. You know, she towers over her boyfriend, Jack of Hearts, who's a superhero in his own right. Rainbow had a really nice run here. It was funny, but it balanced all the different things competing for She-Hulk's attention. Her job, her career as a superhero, you know, like people like Fantastic Four and Avengers calling on her for help because she's one of the better superheroes out there. She's very good at being a superhero, but she wants to be a lawyer too. And she wants to be a good friend. She wants to hang out with her friends like Patsy Walker. You know, she wants to hang out with her friends. She wants to have her relationship with Jack of Hearts. And this has been a really cool book about balancing all of those things. There were sort of 2 volumes of this. So it says issue 10, but I think it went 22 issues, if I'm remembering right. This is the last issue. She-Hulk is rarely a top seller, but I don't think that reflects on the quality. I think that this is a really good book. I think it's good art. I think it's a good story, good characterization. The thing that this run of She-Hulk leaned into more than other runs was probably a little bit more like a romantic drama. It was very much about building an interesting romantic relationship that had problems with Jack of Hearts, a very more like a C or a D-list superhero normally. But this issue did make me care about him. She's got an interesting supporting cast. She-Hulk does. And I'm going to miss it. I'm personally going to miss it. I'm not surprised that it's ended when it did. I'm not surprised. She-Hulk rarely sells well. It just, I don't know what the magical thing to bring it to the next level is, other than hire the absolute best writers and artists in the company. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it becomes an excellent book. I agree. You know, if this was a manga, I swear it would do well. I really do, because there's an audience for different types of stories. And within superhero comics in Marvel, it's good that She-Hulk has the ability to interact with characters like Titania and Hellcat and Thing and Jack of Hearts. It's cool. It's to her advantage in some ways, but that doesn't mean that there's a reading audience that's excited. And it mostly means that She-Hulk primarily is a great character within a team book as compared to having lots of long runs on her own. But I do recommend this. If this gets all collected into a trade paperback, boy, is it a satisfying story. It does still have, for this, like 2 volumes, it does have a satisfying beginning, middle, end, essentially, to She-Hulk's serialized adventures, because it helps her focus on what's important to her. And that focus is something that's been played as sort of a joke before. She's had some great runs, though. She really has. I like Dan Slott's run. I think Charles Soule's run is really strong. Obviously, John Byrne did a lot for She-Hulk, helping her break the 4th wall and making it more of a humor book. But it as to, you know, the business side of it, like how do you crack this? You know, this is in my opinion might be Marvel's best female character. It really might be. I don't like, who else are you going to put up there? You know, they push Captain Marvel really hard. Captain Marvel can be interesting. Carol Danvers isn't my personal favorite. Well, now, though, that makes me instantly think of a newer character, Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel. Ms. Marvel is pretty fantastic, too, as far as their female characters go. They restarted it because a new issue #1 gets new readers. So that's all it was they just created a 2nd volume with a new issue 1, because that is good. Oh, yeah. Storm is very good. Storm is excellent. I shouldn't even say very good. Storm is excellent and has a lot to her. Personally, I think She-Hulk has more going on because she has an even more diverse supporting cast. Because Storm is very much in that like X-Men world, and then the characters that were like outside of that direct world that she would interact with, like Forge, end up getting folded into the X-Men. She had an interesting arc for quite a while with Black Panther, but that was pretty brief, all things considered. But she is a great character. She has great motivations. She's powerful. She's interesting. I like the humor that She-Hulk usually has. I like that. That speaks to me. But Storm is fantastic. That's true. Madam Web gets no love yet again. That's pretty good. Okay, that's good. I think that like if you want She-Hulk to do well, you do have to get it in front of people outside of just the typical superhero reading audience. You need to get into people that are open to broader things. So, now that I think of that, what if you got, an indie creator along the lines of, I don't know, we'll say they'd never get this person, but Dan Clowes, right? If you could get somebody indie like that brought in a completely different audience, I don't know if that would give you the numbers, but it would be an audience that would be very loyal. I agree. Carol Danvers needs to be streamlined a little bit more somehow. Rogue is a great character, actually. I like Rogue a lot. The X-Men have always done well with all sorts of characters, including their female characters. They have. They've got a lot of great women that are, either on the team or supporting cast members. That's just something X-Men does well at. I guess I don't have a lot more to say. It's just that I really like this run. It's probably not for everyone, but I think it's really, really good. And if you haven't read She-Hulk before, read some of those trade paperbacks by guys like Charles Soule or Dan Slott. And that's not to discount the work of the artists. It's just that they've been the consistent presence, and some of the artists have like switched up. So it's easier to just call out the contemporary. Caroline Cash did win an Eisner for Pee Pee Poo Poo. I think it's very funny. It would be interesting to see. Oh yeah, She-Hulk by the Hernandez brothers. It would be worth, I think, doing like a big one shot or something like that by somebody indie. But technically, Rainbow Rowell is somebody from outside of comics too, because she's an author. And I don't know. What about like maybe tell me if this is a bad idea. What if you did the next time they tried to do a She-Hulk book? What if Marvel aimed it at a young adult audience, and you still had her balancing law and superheroing and romance, but if you did it as a complete small graphic novel and aimed it at a young adult audience, would that potentially catch on in a better way? Because she is a character that I think like anybody can get behind. That's an interesting or maybe you even do like her younger, like going to college, right? Like she had to go to college to get her law degree. Maybe that's like a young adult take on the material. So Marvel, come to me next. I'll give you young She-Hulk for a young adult audience, and it will be about her in college, okay? Why would she have superpowers back then? That's the trick. I don't know. It would have to be out of continuity, I guess. I don't know. I feel like there's a way to crack it. I feel like there is. I like the character a lot. So if they're not going to use her in an ongoing right now, I hope they add her to at least the Avengers so that she gets more stories behind her. Maybe she just doesn't have superpowers. It's called Young She-Hulk, but it's just Jen Walters in college. She'd be interesting enough. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, Ultimate. Well, as long as we're talking about that, yeah, let me actually switch over real quick. This will just have to be an extra long episode because I've got some more stuff to talk about. In the Ultimates issue 3, this is a new continuity, okay? There's a new team of Ultimates. We get introduced to the Ultimate version of She-Hulk. Boy, is she different than our She-Hulk. And you know what? At the end, I also really like this take on She-Hulk. Very different character. Very different. Maybe it's just called Pre-Hulk. That's actually a good title, Mike. Marvel, let Mike draw it, and I'll write it. Pre-Hulk, and it's about Jen Walters in college balancing her studies, her friends, her dating life, and maybe she did her sort of pre-law before she became a lawyer. Maybe she still worked with superheroes. Okay, like maybe she worked in a law office that did do a little work with superheroes. Maybe that's how we get some of that fun stuff in there. Okay, Pre-Hulk, Mike. I feel like I honestly feel like we're coming close to something that Marvel should give some serious thought to. Pre-Hulk, a young adult graphic novel about young Jen Walters. Pre-Hulk. I like that. All right. Let me switch it up. The Ultimates. This is probably my favorite issue of the Ultimates so far, actually. The team so far is Tony Stark as Iron Lad, Reed Richards as Doom, Captain America, Thor, Sif, Giant Man and Wasp, and America Chavez, although these three don't factor into this particular story. Actually, neither does Doom. Iron Lad, Thor, and Sif visit the sort of Bikini Atoll area where we were testing nuclear bombs back in the day. So we're going into the South Pacific, and we can see a gamma bomb has gone off. There's these Polynesian people, and they get bathed in gamma fallout. That's something that happened years and years ago. Then we catch up to the modern day, and we've got Iron Lad, Thor, and Sif coming to this island, which is now basically Monster Island. It grew everything. So, like, this is a world, like, full of Godzilla monster, kaiju stuff. The flora and the fauna is huge. But they come here knowing this and, like, trying to recruit She-Hulk, okay? And this She-Hulk, this is a world with all sorts of gamma-powered creatures, right? This is this She-Hulk. She was a baby, or not a baby, but like a toddler originally. And now she's just, she's retained her intelligence and she became strong. But all she wants to do is care for her people on this island. It's a very tight-knit community, and everybody else that got the gamma fallout just turned into these weird mutants. That sounds judgmental because it's not the fault of these people that they got turned into this. And Iron Man had come here looking to find these people and recruit them as allies, to the threats of the world. And this She-Hulk is like, this is Tara. She feels everything. The most gentle breeze is agony for her. Life is pain. You want to put a gun in her hand, holding it will be torture. Or they talk about, they're like, these are the Hulks that you came here to, like, recruit. This guy they just call Sorry. He got his brain enlarged so much that he's only in his own thoughts. He can't interact at all with the rest of them. They all have to care for each other. This is a very sad result of this gamma bomb testing. And she's like, no, I'm not going to leave my people. They're like, this island is horrible and dangerous. Like, we'll take you guys away from here. And they're like, no, this is still our home. And I know it doesn't make sense, but we love it. And we're not going to leave it. So she's like, you're telling me that you want to fix the world. She goes, here's what I'll do. If you can fix the island, I'll come work for you. And he's like, but that's going to take a lot of work. And she's like, yeah, exactly. And I was like, okay, that's actually kind of turning Iron Lad or Tony Stark's sort of mission statement about, like, we're going to fix the world. Like, the villains have, like, ruined our world, but now we're going to, like, fight back. And she's like, yeah, this isn't going to be just like a fast thing. Like, you recruit me and I go beat up a bad guy. She's like, tell you what, maybe I will work for you if you start, curing my people in the land. And I was like, that's a very different type of heroism. And since Tony Stark is, a scientist and a genius, that is the kind of subplot that they could have him working on. And I kind of love it. So very different She-Hulk. It's not Jennifer Walters. You know, she's not a lawyer or anything like that. She's a completely different person. She just has the Hulk-like strength and kept her intelligence. Now, when the Hulk in this world is evil. He's the one that set off this gamma bomb. He's finding out what's happening here, and he's like, okay, no, we're gonna have to put an end to that. So that's what's gonna come, okay? Bear with me. Yes, very much without being an explicit like one-to-one. This is a metaphor for stuff that really happened in the real world, like when we used Agent Orange in Vietnam, and really did some horrible things. Yeah, the Maker is the villain that really made a horrible world here. Here's one thing that, I'm pretty sure that this is, to a degree, also referring to, the Bikini Atoll nuclear tests. And we don't even know necessarily what that radiation fallout did to the islanders there. I like this issue. It had a little bit of action with, some fights against like big monsters, but that wasn't the heart of it. The heart of it was an actual discussion of how we can help each other when things are bad. And I liked it. I think that should be an ongoing subplot of Reed Richards and Tony Stark fixing this, really ruined area and helping these people that something bad happened to. I like that. I like that a lot. And what was the other thing I was going to say about this particular issue of the Ultimates? Bear with me a moment. I had something else to say, and now all of a sudden it's eluding me a little. It'll come back to me if I just refresh my memory by looking at these pages again. Oh, I know. I remember. Okay. So we see that like a gamma bomb was set off here, and it was intentionally done, by the way, to affect these people, and we get like these reports that were done by some scientist that was part of this project, and then later, like there's a follow-up report, and he's like, "Oh, no one's coming to save me either, are they? Like all my fellow scientists have been killed off by this like I was part of the experiment, wasn't I?" Director Banner did this. They keep saying Director Banner. That makes me think that the Ultimates version of the Hulk that we've seen, we've only heard him called Hulk or Director Banner. I don't think this is Bruce Banner. I think if they introduce Bruce Banner would still be a heroic character. I think that this is Bruce's father. In the main Marvel continuity, Bruce's father was also a nuclear scientist, and he was abusive and a horrible guy. I bet in the Ultimates universe, he's that, and he also turned himself into a gamma monster and is just a little more in control, because this is a very evil Hulk, and it could be Bruce Banner, but I think it's going to be revealed to be his dad, and that Bruce, if he even exists in this, I don't think I think Bruce would still be a hero, in other words. Which is nice, because I don't think any of us want to see Bruce Banner turned into a villain. We want to root for our heroes. But if you said that his father also had been turned into a Hulk originally, I think that that's a cool addition to the idea of the Hulk. We'll see. No, this version of She-Hulk is definitely not related in any way. So, very different. Very different. She's a completely different character. She just happens to be a lady that's got her intelligence as well as her gamma strength. Because most people that are exposed to gamma turn into mutants or get like rage and stuff like that. I think it's David Banner. Yeah, I think it's Bruce's father. I do. It could be Bruce. You're right. It could still prove to be Bruce. I just don't think so. I'm leaning towards thinking it could be Bruce's father. Don't know. It's just that if it was Bruce, I think that they would have called him Bruce by now. If there had never been any thought to turning somebody else into the Hulk, they just would have been calling him Bruce Banner. They just would have, because nobody's thinking to like mislead you. But if it's somebody other than Bruce, you think very carefully about how you're presenting the Hulk. And you're like, okay, if I say Director Banner and people aren't thinking of it, they're still thinking of Bruce. But if it's not Bruce, you're putting that name in there very intentionally to sort of like do a twist. You're thinking ahead. You're thinking ahead. Maybe he's the leader and ultimate Bruce Banner will get Gamma Smarts. It's an interesting idea. It's an interesting idea. There's some good twists that could happen. I am not loving Ultimate Black Panther. I want to. I'm not loving it, so I've dropped that one. I like Ultimate Spider-Man, okay? It's exploring something different. And I thought that I was about to drop Ultimates, but it keeps sort of surprising me, and this was the best issue yet. Issue 3 was the best issue yet, so I'm going to give it a little more time. I'm going to give it a bit more time. What else was fun this week? Look, Transformers didn't win 2 Eisners for Daniel Warren Johnson for no reason. And Jorge Corona, by the way, is a really exciting artist. Look at this shot of Beachcomber. Not the most popular Transformer. Tiny little guy surfing through the ocean to do some research. It looks awesome. That's some fun storytelling. This is a fun team book where it's got a lot of supporting characters, and it's about both sides strategizing on how to counter the other. But there is internal conflict on both ends. What I like is that they come up with very clever ways to use specific characters in specific ways. So, for instance, in this, what's happening in the comic right now is the Decepticons have created a space bridge, a bridge to bring Cybertron to Earth where they can more easily steal the resources, okay? And they're doing that with this huge engine in the ocean. Now, the Autobots need to rescue some of their comrades and stop the bad guys, but they can't sneak up on them. There's this huge base. There's tons of Decepticons. How are they going to do that? Well, several issues back, the Decepticons betrayed some of their own, including Skywarp, one of the planes. They ripped Skywarp up for parts and attached him to the computers in the Ark for some processing power, and they gave the rest of his parts to other Decepticons. The Autobots have taken over this base, and Skywarp has been making their job harder a lot of the time, using the computers and stuff, because he hates the Autobots, but he's not fully there, okay? He's only like a faint memory in the computer systems. But he knows that he was betrayed. And the Transformers look and they're like, hey, Skywarp is the only Transformer who has the ability to teleport. And they talk to him, and Skywarp didn't give them any trouble this time. So I was like, oh, that's so clever. They set this up a long time ago, that this Transformer has this ability. The bad guys betrayed him, and he understands just enough of what's going on here that he helps them this time. So the Transformers use Skywarp's teleportation ability to sneak into the base and attack the bad guys. That's clever. I won't give away too much more, but there's some fun character work. They constantly introduce new characters. Daniel Warren Johnson writes each character with a different voice. For instance, Jazz is really into music, so he just tends to work musical references into his dialogue. Like, he's a prisoner here, and he talks to Shockwave saying, you keep trying to get in my head, and I'll keep playing my tune. So I'm still enjoying this. Look at some of this art by Jorge Corona. It isn't exactly what Daniel Warren Johnson does, but it's still pretty dynamic and detailed. Anyway, my point is that they've done a lot to set this stuff up. They keep paying off little subplots in the book. An introduction of Ultra Magnus, and it looks here like he's going to be like, the solution to the Autobots battle. That goes in a very unexpected direction. Very unexpected. Yeah, exactly. He delivered about as well as he did in the movie, which is to say, he didn't really deliver in the movie, did he? But I think that there's going to be a little bit more to Ultra Magnus's characterization. I think that they've got more time to explore some of that. It's really cool. Yeah, the art is so good. I agree. I was nervous, but if Daniel Warren Johnson stays on as the writer, he's giving us clever little twists. He's got like this ongoing battle, but he also has some really interesting character work with the humans and the robots, and they don't always get along too perfectly. And I kind of appreciate that. I recommend it, folks. The first 6 issues are now collected in a trade paperback. If you haven't been reading this, and if you've never read Transformers before, great news. It doesn't refer to anything that happened in the past. This is a fresh jumping on point. Daniel Warren Johnson is doing something beautiful with Transformers. I am so grateful for the characterization of Beachcomber, a great bot who deserves the spotlight. Yeah, the double page spread is amazing. Contemporary comics, and it's also a good sort of setup for what they do later to help subvert the expectations. Yeah, just a surprisingly entertaining book that gives you more than you expect, because I think all you'd expect in this is a constant influx of new toys, new characters fighting, but they fight in clever ways. They give us unexpected characters as important characters, and there's actual heart and emotion to the people involved. You know, like Spike, the main human, is currently in a wheelchair, and it's just him and Beachcomber kind of trying to do their own thing and feeling empathy for the world around them. They take time. Like a page like this is just built to create character work in the midst of all this crazy action. Just a lot going on here. A lot. I think the last thing I'll talk about this week for a comic, and then I'll do a little drawing and take your questions. I'll just briefly talk about Ultraman Avengers, which was a delightful surprise in how good it was. I got this because EJ Sue drew the cover, and I'm a fan of EJ's work. I think it's a beautiful cover. And Kyle Higgins was one of the 2 writers on it, and I really like Kyle's writing. I enjoy Radiant Black a lot. Picked up Cowl, which was cool. He's done lots of good stuff, okay? But I know Ultraman, but I'm not an expert. So I was like, am I going to really enjoy this? They tell you everything you need to know in this. And what I didn't expect for sort of a licensed book was just how good the artwork was. And I didn't expect to see characters like Galactus in this. The artwork is by Francesco Manna. New to me. Really good. So Kyle Higgins and Matt Groom are the writers. I think Matt Groom, I told Kyle, I go, Matt has done a really good job in this issue with you. You deserve to upgrade him and give him a second T to his name. And Kyle said, well, you know, he'll just do the typical Australian thing of throwing it back like a boomerang. He always one-ups me. But look, it's really nice artwork. Essentially, the story is, you know, it doesn't get any more complicated than it needs to be. We've got the science team that exists within the world of Ultraman, including the main character here, who can turn into Ultraman. And if you don't know, Ultraman is basically an alien energy and consciousness. It allows the host body that it inhabits to grow to giant proportions and use his powers for 3 minutes at a time. That's just the lore. It's a great sci-fi TV show. So anyway, we've got those characters in here. And then it's a dimensional thing. But it isn't really a multiverse. It's just that the Marvel Universe characters are crossover here because Galactus somehow went over to this other dimension and is made a herald out of like one of Ultraman's alien threats. And so, yeah, the Avengers, including Spider-Man, feel obligated to come help. They feel that Galactus is their responsibility. Great art. Story makes enough sense. cool. We're just like uniting the two worlds. We're not saying that they exist in the same one, but we're saying that all their stories that we've seen in comics definitely are canon. And it all leads up to all sorts of cool monster fights. Like, this monster is like already super powerful, but now it's Galactus's herald, so it's even more powerful. And we've got Ultraman, but we've also got Ultra Mega, which is the sort of robot version of Ultraman. So we've got two different Ultramans. We've got a shape-shifting, gigantic kaiju monster. Like, this is fun. You get to see all the classic stuff. Ultraman using his, laser ray. I don't know. Yeah, Chemdog, I'm just going to share this with everyone. If you don't know Ultraman, there's a lot of it you can see on Tubi for free. Right, yeah. A Spider-Man and Ultraman crossover manga going on at the same time. I haven't seen the manga. But this is fun. It reads great. It doesn't bog you down with too much exposition. It only gives you what you need to move the story forward. And I think if you know these characters, it becomes a lot of fun. Now, this is a variant cover, but I sincerely hope, I really hope, we do get to see Ultraman go up against some of Marvel's kaiju. We don't see him fight Fin Fang Foom in this issue. I hope that that is something that happens. That would be fun. Ultraman is fun if you haven't seen it. Ultraman is really fun. I like that Shin Ultraman movie that they released like 3 years ago or something. It was pretty good. We'll see. Maybe they'll do something fun as we go on. Like maybe one of the Avengers will get like to use some of Ultraman's powers and grow to giant size and go up against a monster. Or hey, Iron Man like saw Ultra Mega and he goes, maybe I haven't been thinking big enough. I would love to see Iron Man create, a mecha that's the size of a kaiju. But it's fun. It's really fun. It moves at a great pace. It gives you everything you need to know in this. So if you haven't read Avengers lately, or you haven't read any Ultraman or watched any Ultraman, don't worry. You'll still understand 100% this story. It would just help to know things like who the Avengers are or Galactus. It would help. But it's good. That was your idea, EJ. That is a brilliant idea. And if this is all we get, it's beautiful. I want to see Ultraman fight Fin Fang Foom. Because Fin Fang Foom is a lot smarter than the typical monster that Ultraman goes up against. Ultraman versus Giant Man? That would be a blast. Well, great idea, EJ. If that isn't part of like a future story, just great idea. Good job. I get it. They're going up against an Ultraman monster empowered by Galactus. It makes sense. Yeah, that is just a brilliant idea for a cover. Really good job. Could come up with Red Ronin. Red Ronin was created when Marvel had the Godzilla license. They still own the rights to Red Ronin. He's gigantic mecha. They could definitely still use him. Technically, Godzilla still exists within the mainstream Marvel continuity. He just got changed in appearance by the supervillain Dr. Demonicus. But like he does still exist somewhere, like on an island in Marvel continuity. He just isn't called Godzilla anymore, and he looks different. He just looks like a gigantic sort of lizard monster. But technically, they did that to like keep it all in continuity. They just said that this villain, Dr. Demonicus, changed how he looked. Ultraman versus the Celestials. Well, the Celestials are gods, whereas Ultraman is very powerful, but not a god. So the Celestials would likely stomp Ultraman, but maybe Ultraman could outthink them. Maybe. He's got a science team working with him, and the science team is pretty impressive in their own right. They each sort of specialize in different areas, and they've got a good dynamic of banter and stuff like that. All right, so let's draw. I had drawn recently Rogue and Gambit, and I just sort of made up. It just started as a sketch that I liked, so I inked it. I wasn't drawing them in their accurate suits because I was just sort of drawing for fun, and I gave Gambit a short jacket. But I liked how it came out. So I was inspired today to doodle Rogue in her Savage Land look. And I thought that it would be fun to just sort of doodle while chatting for a little bit. So let me bust out some of my inking tools, and we'll see if I can do this justice. Boy, that really zooms out, doesn't it? Well, you know what? I'm going to zoom in a little, but I think I can also, once I ink it, you'll see it better. It's pretty faint pencils, to be clear. It's pretty faint. It's pretty sketchy. Pretty sketchy. Arts and crafts time, everybody. So if I sort of go out of frame a little, or you don't hear me as well, it's because I have to lean over and sort of ink a little bit. Yeah, but we'll see how this goes. We'll see how this goes. And if it doesn't go well, I'll just end the stream. Do I have a brush? Or do I have a thinner pen? I'd love to use a thinner pen for Rogue's eyes and some of her hair details. Bear with me. I wanted a really thin technical pen for that. And I'm not sure if I've got one. I might have to just be bold and use really thick lines. But I don't want to. I don't want to. I'm looking through all the different pens that I have here. Bear with me. But I'll also try to take your questions. So. I didn't think to add Zabu, but I'd also probably be pretty bad at tigers. Gail is doing very well. I think her book Misty comes out next week. I hope so. Can you hear my thoughts? No, so far I've never been able to find a way to project them other than using my voice. Overtime drawing bonus, yes. Yeah, if you can hit like button, that I appreciate that. That always helps. I guess I just don't have a really thin brush or technical pen right now, so I'm just going to have to be very careful. I'm going to take off my glasses so that I can actually focus on what's up close in front of me a little better. And then every once in a while, I'll look up and see what's being asked. Does everybody know what I'm talking about when I say Rogue in her Savage Land look? Maybe I just took that for granted, but it was like Jim Lee was drawing the X-Men back then, so I think of it as like sort of a popular era. But for a while, Rogue was running around in the jungle area of Marvel Comics that's in Antarctica. Oh boy, does that not look good? The Crow remake, but I might go see it just because it's related to comics. It's a classic. Yeah, I agree. The fight scenes were a little better in 3 from 2. Yeah. I'm going to switch over to a brush in a moment. I feel like I'm not really getting good hair texture off of a technical pen. When did I go to the ER? I guess that was about 2 weeks ago or a week and a half. Yeah, about a week and a half ago. Yeah, if you saw my latest comic tropes, the intro is me in the ER, and that was not done just for that. I just figured as long as I'm suffering in here, I might as well try to take advantage of the setting, and I'll do an opening gag because I was mostly left alone to suffer in the room by myself. Not fun. Not fun. Sexy Cave Girl by Jim Lee. Absolutely. Yeah. Use an eyelash to draw. Sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that you were there. Thank you. I mean, it's what I do basically for a living is make videos. So yeah, it's just something I'm always thinking of. I'm like, I guess I'll make the most of this situation. Anyway, I hope most of you were able to check out and hopefully enjoy the latest episode of Comic Tropes. I had fun making it. I was just trying to be funny. I was just sort of poking fun at a bad comic, but I wasn't trying to be mean-spirited about it. Just trying to have some fun with something that didn't come out great, because I think we can learn from that. I think most people seem to get that that's what I was going after. A few people were offended, but, I kind of expect that at this point that, nothing's going to hit with everybody. You joined the clips, not the grubs? All right. Can you sell cars without a driver's license? Yeah, technically you definitely could. You don't have to be able to drive them. You just have to be able to do the job. So yeah, for instance, I don't know, say somebody was in a wheelchair and they couldn't obviously drive most of the cars that are being sold. They need a specialized vehicle to drive. They could still get a job selling cars. Yeah. A lot of people do, but yeah, a lot of people don't as well. I did not ever see them live or growing up. I wasn't aware of them, but I found out that several of my friends did see them growing up. They were like, "Oh, I just watched your episode. I saw those guys." I was like, "Oh my goodness." Oh, I saw Barfly on the stands, and I really respect what Jordan Bloom and Patton Oswalt have been creating with their Minor Threats universe, but I didn't pick it up. I hope it's good. Oh, that one's written by Kyle Starks with Ryan Brown. Okay, that's cool to hear. Glad to hear it was good. What else are people reading that maybe I haven't reviewed that you would say like, hey, this is a great comic that's out right now? Do I read all the comments? No, I definitely don't. I skim them here and there, but I just can't read all the comments. I mean, theoretically, I could physically like accomplish that. I'm saying that I don't want to because a lot of them are pretty mean, and I don't want to get into like an argument. So I do not read all of the comments intentionally. If I want to be told that I'm fat and stupid, I know where to find it. I skimmed them today and I saw one that was telling me that they thought that I'd be dead in 2 years, and I didn't know if that was like what they were saying they hoped would happen or they thought would happen or that they wanted to make it happen. So I'm like, oh, great. Yeah, this is why I don't read too many of the comments. So if you've ever left one and I haven't responded, I don't take the time to read all the comments on YouTube. No, I'll look at them a little more carefully on this channel because it's smaller and it's more focused and it has more engaged, supportive community. There's a lot of people, at least as many on comic tropes, but it's a bigger channel, so it also gets a lot of just random people that just don't like me. Whatever. Oh, that's not even by far the worst thing. I'm just saying that's something I saw today. I don't think I really heard about Bear Pirate Viking Queen. So no, I didn't read it though. I didn't read it. Yeah. And I think Jim saw that and appreciated it. So thank you for the kind comment. I have to for my own mental health. It would like break me if I took the time to just sit down and go, I'm going to read all the comments and, try to be engaging and reply to the good ones and stuff like that. It would just mean that I'm also reading a lot of negativity, and I don't need that in my life. I just don't. So it makes me feel bad sometimes that I can't easily look at all the nice things that are being said or interesting things, but it's just, no, I just can't do it. I don't think it would be smart. Thank you, John. I wanted to stop in and say thank you for the videos. I genuinely get excited to see all your content. That's really cool. That's so fun. Well, coming up soon on this channel, Jim and I did record a new episode of the show where we talk about one exceptionally crazy movie. And then that means that was episode 12, and that'll come out in a little while. It's still getting edited and worked on. And then episode 13, we will be releasing on September 13th. That is a Friday the 13th. You can probably guess what kind of thing we'll be talking about there. But also, yeah, I'll be still doing this show weekly, of course. And I'm excited. I think that there's some really cool stuff coming up in comics to talk about on this channel, and I've got some really big ideas of what to talk about on comic tropes as well. The next comic tropes I'm making is pretty research heavy. I think I don't know exactly when I'm going to be able to get it out. I want to get it out in a timely manner, but there's a lot to say. I want to talk about the Marvel method and what artists were doing and like what they ultimately thought of the Marvel method. If you don't know, the Marvel method is that like a writer, usually Stan Lee, would create just like a sentence or two, maybe a paragraph or just even a phone call, and then let the artists draw all 22 pages, like plot it out and paste it out themselves. And then they'd go back in, the writer would, and give it the dialogue and stuff. And I was like, boy, to me, that really means that you're more of a scripter or a plotter, but not a writer. We'll see. We'll see. I wish you would disable comments on your Comic Tropes channel altogether. People aren't just mean to you there, Chris. They're very cruel to each other. If I see stuff like that, I do report it, but because I'm not looking at everything, I admit I don't catch everything. I also have a few filters for certain words that I won't allow. It does catch some especially egregious stuff and doesn't allow it to get printed, but some people do look for ways around that stuff. And I'm sorry, that's just a problem with not just YouTube, but honestly, social media in general. I wish I had more control, but I don't. That is just something that happens when people are anonymous, in my opinion. It is a big topic. So there's a lot that I need to research to find some examples to support my assertions, because I've got my opinions on it, but I need to get lots of interviews and images to support or learn that I'm wrong on something and adjust my script. So yeah. Yeah, we could. There's some interesting stuff there. And we're going to try some different stuff here and there on Trash Movie Bonanza, I think. Like, I haven't even suggested this to Jim yet, but maybe it makes sense to sometimes just do one episode instead of each of us making the other watch an episode. I don't know. Well, we could try things like that, but it'll be fun. And we might have some guests on. Am I the only one that hasn't noticed bad comments, or is it just recent? No, it's on every episode. There's always some pretty nasty comments, but I'm glad that you haven't been exposed to it. Don't dig into the comments on news articles or videos. There's always some bad stuff there. Yeah, I think you build the audience that you want to build, and I think my videos are primarily talking about positive comics or just trying to like make jokes at worst. So I think that the vast majority are good. It's just that there can be some pretty dark stuff in there. Oh, yeah. And Cobra was made because Stallone passed on Beverly Hills Cop, but like that the idea for Beverly Hills Cop morphed into what became Cobra. So there's some interesting history behind that. Thank you. I just figured if I was in a bodybuilder type bodysuit underneath, it was funnier to have something like a pro wrestler shirt, but I like AEW. Rogue gotta have her gloves. It's kind of funny to me that Rogue does have gloves for her Savage Land outfit, because she's basically running around the jungle in a bikini, which makes sense for the weather, the climate. But Rogue's powers are, if she touches you, skin to skin contact, she absorbs your powers, but also things like, your memory, your life force. It's a very dangerous power. So typically she's in like her costume when she's a superhero is a full bodysuit, including gloves. Well, she still had the gloves for her Savage Land outfit, even though she was otherwise, walking around with a lot of exposed skin, which would be very dangerous to the average person. I always kind of got a kick out of that. What other questions have we got? We can treat this basically like an AMA. So if you've got questions about comic tropes or pros and cons or comics or me, go ahead and shout it out. I'll try to catch whatever I can catch. If I don't catch yours, it's either because you were especially nasty or, more likely, I just missed it, okay? Oh, sorry, I like this. Yes, you don't want to accidentally absorb the memories of either a random dinosaur or a saber-toothed tiger. Final Fight number 1. No, I don't know Final Fight number 1. Sounds like fun the way you describe it, but I don't know it. Well, I only have a couple koi, and my pond needs a lot of work right now, so I honestly don't know. It isn't very clear. The water definitely needs to be cleaned up by a professional right now. Yeah. The coffee is just Bustelo, Cafe Bustelo. That's right. She was depowered, and that's why she got with Joseph, isn't it? It was somewhat serious. It's just that I got over it. It's not fun for people to hear about, but I had a kidney stone. It's just super painful. The kidney stone itself, just so you guys know if I'm talking about it, was really, really small, and I was able to pass it. That didn't hurt. But even when it's super tiny, it can block your kidney, and my kidney was filling up with water and fluid, and that is just, it's really hard to describe exactly how painful that is. I'll say this though. The doctors prescribed on top of each other because it wasn't working. I started with Dilaudid, didn't do anything for the pain. So they added oxycodone. I was still in so much pain, I couldn't focus on anything. They added Percocet. I've got all of this in my system, and I was still in so much pain that I vomited from just the pain. So it was really intense, to be honest. I would say it's the most pain I've ever been in my life by far. And I've had a kidney stone once or twice, and it's been bad, but not this bad. Really, really painful. So yeah, you can't even think straight. You're just out of your mind. A trash movie watch along. I don't think we've talked about that, but what would be fun potentially if we could find a video that is absolutely in the public domain and isn't going to get claimed. We could theoretically do a watch along if we were at a convention together or something like that for all of you guys. We'd have to talk about how to actually do something like that, but that could be a lot of fun. The technical side of it needs some thought. It's a lot easier if we did it on Twitch, but Twitch is its own challenges for setting things up. Have I thought about doing a video on abstract topics like courage, friendship, or something like that, and talk about examples you think are great? Could. I just tend to be more interested in writers and artists and comic book history, but it's not a bad idea. So we'll see. It's not a bad idea. I did do one early episode on some Judge Dredd when I went to England, maybe 6 years ago or something. So there is something in my history, and I just haven't revisited it because I did do it, but I could probably do it a lot better now, my analysis. So might at some point. I haven't read a lot from Antarctic, to be honest, but did Antarctic do, is it called Crossed? I did do that. Rank the states I've lived in. Let me think for a moment. Okay. I would, here's my rule that I'll come up with. I had to live in it for over a year to include it, because I've got some places I've lived for less than a year, and I don't think it's fair to rank it. So what I'd include is Massachusetts, Louisiana, Virginia, and Washington. I will put Massachusetts first because it's where I grew up, and I like it a lot. It's sometimes the climate can be a little challenging, with snow and stuff. Don't love that, but it's got history. It's got the beach. I just like it. I like the food. I'm just going to talk overall about things like, like cost of living, entertainment, like the climate, stuff like that. So I'll put Massachusetts number 1. For when I was there, I'm going to put Louisiana as number 2. It would probably be number 4 if I lived there today, just because I'm older and the heat and humidity wouldn't be as fun. But I didn't have to worry about anything like, say, where they fall on the educational system, because I don't have kids. New Orleans is just an awesome city. Great food, great nightlife, really entertaining. I'll put Washington number 3. It's very pretty out here. If you want to do anything outdoors, it does have that, from beaches to skiing to, mountains, hiking, all that stuff. Overall, it's a decent balance with the cost of living in Washington. And then I'll put Virginia number 4, but it isn't like bad. I made a lot of great friends in Virginia in a lot of different types of social circles. They're a little more outgoing in Virginia than they are in Washington. Washington's a little shy, but Virginia did have some good restaurant options because I was close to DC. And I liked it a lot too. I do. But if I ever move to Japan, you'll know that might have become the new number 1. I was in New Orleans, so it's more like I'm ranking cities in a way, but not quite. That was fun to talk about. Just fun to think about. What did you guys think of the latest Alien movie? Did anybody else go see it? I liked it. It isn't a perfect movie, but most of them aren't, just to be clear. The first 2 are incredible. And then after that, they've got interesting ideas with flawed executions. I would put this as number 3 overall in the franchise, even including like the AVP movies in Prometheus and Covenant and stuff like that. I'd put it number 3. There are a couple things that they didn't do perfectly that I wish that they had chosen to approach differently. But overall, I had a good time. So I liked the movie. But I am kind of curious if anybody else went and saw it, if they have a very different opinion. No, I'm not going to talk about any spoilers. I'm just going to say I liked it. That's all. I've thought about that before. Maybe I might do something like that at some point. I can understand that. It still worked for me, but I understand exactly what you're talking about. I really do, in terms of how it was paced. There's been some really good Alien comics. I haven't really read anything in Marvel that I absolutely love, although they've had some good ideas and art, but I love a lot of the Dark Horse ones. I do. Yeah. Besides comics and horror, it tends to be stuff that I wouldn't even say horror. I'd say like movies. But I also like reading, so I like storytelling, I like hiking. I like seeing pretty outdoors stuff like that. I like tabletop gaming with my friends, although I haven't really been able to do a lot of it in a long time. I like golf, but I don't have anybody to play with, so I haven't done that in a while. I like traveling. I really like traveling. I like just seeing new things and trying some new food. I'm not the most adventurous, but I'll try most things once. And I like learning about the history of a place, like when it's tangible and there. I like that a lot. Easy. Just drink lots of water. Drink way more than you think you need. I was dehydrated. I knew it. I was dehydrated for a while. And I was like having trouble sort of catching up on feeling completely hydrated. And that's what causes it. I can understand those concerns. But overall, I just was able to sort of go with most of it. I would call like the problems, like for me, they still were serviceable to the story. Serviceable. And so I had a good time. Not Aliens specifically, although I did do an episode on like Batman and Superman and Aliens, which was not great. Oh yeah, George Miller is, I still love Furiosa, so yeah. Deadpool and Wolverine is fun. I give it something like a B+, which it's not exceptional storytelling, but I thought it was very fun. That makes me think of some MCU news. I guess Variety had a piece on actor Kit Harington, and it came out that Marvel is not actively moving forward with an Eternals movie at this time. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone considering where it performed. But so they've taken that completely off their schedule. I kind of liked the Eternals. I don't think it was fantastic, but I do think I thought it was interesting, and I thought it had set itself up for a potentially much better sequel story. So I'm a little disappointed to hear that it's not going to get any more. It left a lot of those characters in limbo, which I don't think is ideal. But that's okay. There are other things I guess I'd rather see, so I don't care that much. But yeah. But it made me think of like some stuff that I learned recently, although I say learned. There are some accounts that have claimed that Kang was intended to be an important aspect of both Deadpool and Wolverine and the Agatha All Along show, and that like when Deadpool was having its reshoots, it was to remove the stuff that originally like involved Kang. So it was supposed to like be more like the TVA, or no, what was it? I guess originally some of the idea allegedly was that Deadpool was going to show that somehow like even the worst Wolverine variant could still be an anchor being and a hero that could help stop Kang. There was something to do with that anyway. I don't know exactly. And then they said that like I guess Jonathan Majors even filmed some stuff for Agatha All Along that's been completely cut. I don't know if that means that they'll do anything with, say, Doctor Doom instead, but yeah, apparently he even filmed a little bit for the Agatha All Along show that was supposed to involve some multiverse stuff. I don't know why they didn't just recast Kang. Like, out of all the characters that they have, one that has tons of variants would have been the easiest. I remember now. I remember what the Kang stuff was. They were going to say that the Wolverine that we see in Deadpool and Wolverine, that all of the X-Men in his world were killed by like Kang and Immortus and Scarlet Centurion, who are variants of Kang. And and that like Wolverine sort of like ran from the fight, and that is why the world hates him, because now without the X-Men, the world has a lot more sort of just crime and problems without their superheroes to protect it. And I go, oh, if that's true, that makes a lot more sense for why people don't like Wolverine in his world. For that, so yeah, supposedly like that's what had happened to that world, is like, and that would have been a small scene, but like that's what would have involved Kang. I don't know if that's true or not, but it does actually kind of make sense with what we see in the movie. It probably would have just been a tiny, I don't know if we even would have seen a scene of that, but we would have been told that. And I go, oh, that actually might have fit all the multiverse stuff that we've learned so far pretty well. Like that small little thing of saying that's what happened to the X-Men. Oh, okay. Yeah. We'll see. Well, I say that too much, but maybe it'll still work. It seems very odd to me to sort of set up such a character that in the comics, to be clear, Kang is a pretty big villain. You know, like that's a big Avengers level threat. It seems very strange to sort of toss that away when they've set up a bunch of multiverse stuff. And I think they need to get off the multiverse stuff and wrap that all up. But I think it makes the most sense to wrap it up with Kang. That's the enemy that you should defeat, to just close that off. Maybe some of it will still happen. I don't know. Do you spend more time watching movies than reading comics in a week? Probably not, because Jim and I do Trash Movie Bonanza more like once every 2 weeks, and that might be about 3 hours of movie watching. And then I might see a movie in a theater, so that's maybe another hour and a half. We'll just round it up to 2 hours. So that's like 5 hours. Well, that's 5 hours maybe over 2 weeks. No, I think I read more comics. Might be close. What else should I talk about, or should I wrap everything up? Because I'm probably not going to be able to like ink this whole thing before. I got to wrap it up eventually. I'd love to ink this whole thing, but you guys have seen I draw pretty slow. That's my biggest downfall, and why I'll probably never be able to do like an interior of a comic. I'm just too slow. I'm too slow. Hey, don't you know I'm way too slow, bro? Do you believe what Cat Williams said was the reason that Disney got rid of the guy that played Kang? I have no idea what Cat Williams said. Was that in the news? Because I didn't come across it at all. Color it? That could be fun. Who's my favorite comic vampire besides Dracula? You mean it has to be in a comic book? Are there any famous comic book vampires? I can think of movie and TV vampires. I don't know if I can think of lots of comic book vampires. I mean, there's Dracula and Blade. What else is there? I'll be honest, nothing comes to mind right away. Most of them have been. I would have said something like the J.M. DeMatteis Spectacular Spider-Man run was kind of overlooked for a long time in terms of getting collected, but that's about to be. Same with Strike Force Moratori. Oh, Vampirella. Yeah, you guys are saying Morbius. Morbius is definitely not a favorite. He's not great. There was one in Strontium Dog, huh? Sorry, I guess I'm just not enough of an expert on that. Yeah, Nightclub's vampires were interesting a little bit. Skinner Sweet that's American Vampire, right? Out of these, like Vampirella for sure. Good point. Vampirella is kind of cool. Oh, that's true. Cassidy. Cassidy was an interesting character, but I wouldn't necessarily call him a favorite. Yeah, I hear you on Hannibal King. See, I would say that like more interesting vampires would like be ones from more I don't know, TV. I told you guys earlier I liked Angel. I like Spike from like the sort of Buffy universe. They were in comics, so I guess they count. Movies like Near Dark, that's pretty cool. Or Count Orlok from Nosferatu. Some horror flicks for October? Almost definitely. Yeah, True Blood was sort of interesting. Vampirella is an alien, but she's also a vampire. Let's be, vampires don't have to be supernatural to be vampires. Vampire Hunter D, that's a good call. Interesting enough. I wouldn't say a favorite, but I like the original anime. That was an interesting movie, especially for its time. I don't know what my unpopular opinions are, but I'm sure that there's a video out there that either doesn't have views or has some views that they say that I'm wrong. So I'm sure we could figure it out if we just looked into my comic tropes history. It's garbage, and you should know because you read it. You watched it 3 times. I think I bailed on like the final 1 or 2 seasons. Like it started strong, but kind of. I don't know Helsing, sorry. Blackula, Barnabas Collins, exactly, but these aren't like really, okay, right, got it. You're saying that they were in comics, so technically they count. That's fair. I guess I'm about to wrap it up, folks. I don't think I have much more to say this week, but I appreciate all your support. I appreciate people being here in the comments and adding stuff, especially like today. We got an update on that Joe Jusko situation. Thanks to you guys. You gave me some super chats, which means a lot to me. This is how I try to make a living, so that means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. Even those like, $2 and stuff, it adds up for me. So I'm super grateful. I just want you guys to know that. Thank you for always being here and commenting so actively about so much. I feel like this would have looked better if I had a thinner marker for the facial details. Oh, I'll just zoom in so that you guys can see more of what I was doing. I don't know that it's sort of it's okay, but it's not as good as like stuff that I've done in the past. It's okay. For me, it's okay. For somebody else, it probably isn't up to their standards. It was fun though. I'm enjoying doing it. I'm still thinking some of this out, like exactly what I want to represent. I'm gonna just black out these bands. Like she's got like wraps all over her to protect her from the elements, I guess. So anyway, all right. That was still fun though. I appreciate you guys being here because that was 3 hours. I think that's more than enough show. That's more than anybody asked for. I'll get some more brushes and pens soon. Thanks everybody for joining me. I hope that this new camera setup is working for everybody. It looks like it might be a notch darker than like the camera I used before, but I think the trade-off in terms of it not having the weird autofocus, I hated how it looked when it was blurry. That just drove me nuts. So yeah, it's nice to have this. Is there anything else? I'll just again promote that I've got a new Comic Tropes episode out and a relatively new trash movie bonanza out on this channel. So I always appreciate you guys giving that stuff a look. I'll have more stuff to announce soon for some things that I might have in publication, but it's going to take a little while, and it doesn't make sense to announce it too early. Yeah. So thanks for all the support, everybody. Double salute. A single salute just isn't enough. You guys deserve the two. Thank you very much for everything. Keep reading comics. Bye. Au revoir. Au revoir. Au revoir. Oh, what a joke.